friendship with Zhuangbai. And I hope this small token brings a smile to your face. This gesture not only caters to their preferences, but also maintains the formality and dignity of the occasion. Roni's gaze lingered on the two ladies. The one with high, dark hair exuded the charm of unmodified humanity. The other, whose fingertips danced with an invisible melody, radiated the vitality and liveliness unique to pure emotions. He looked at them with unabashed appreciation. Beckett's gift truly resonated with him. He had a fondness for these flawed yet uniquely charming individuals, far more than for those perfect but dull products of genetic optimization. The smile on Lord Roni's face became genuine and warm as he gently patted Beckett's arm, an action that felt much more intimate, leaving him at a loss for words. Such a generous gift, Roni felt unworthy to receive. He laughed heartily, his gaze once again lingering on the two ladies, satisfaction evident in his expression. At Beckett's gesture, the two ladies gracefully took their seats beside Roni. The atmosphere became remarkably harmonious. In high spirits, Roni personally poured drinks for Beckett and himself. "Come, my lord. Let us drink to the friendship between our families." After a few rounds of strong liquor, amidst the soft words of the beauties and the attentive pouring of drinks, Roni's guard gradually faded, softened by alcohol and delight. He began to speak grandly, discussing family business and interstellar experiences, while Beckett played the perfect listener and supporter, occasionally tossing out questions that satisfied Roni's desire to boast while subtly guiding the conversation. Managing such a large family logistics, every aspect demands attention, Roni said, tipsy, patting his belly, his tone a mix of pride and barely concealed complaint, especially regarding financial management, which could not afford to relax for even a moment. Beckett quickly seized the opportunity, his tone full of understanding and resonance. Indeed, what Elder Roni says is absolutely correct. In today's situation, which family doesn't regard their financial chain as more important than life itself? To be honest, in preparation for the upcoming ceremony, I had to scale back some investments in secondary areas. He smoothly shifted the topic. As for Zhuangbai, with you and the other elders in command, your deep heritage must make things much more manageable. I hear that young Master Parker is also making great strides recently. Truly, a tiger father does not raise a dog's son. This compliment struck the right chord with Roni, seemingly a casual remark. Surrounded by fine wine and beautiful ladies, Roni waved his hand proudly. That kid Parker has some ideas. Young people should dare to think and act. Just the other day, huh? He withdrew 500 million star coins from the family treasury in one go. As the words left his mouth, Roni's hand holding the wine glass paused slightly. As if realizing he had misspoken, his gaze becoming a bit clearer. But this is all for the future development of the family, he chuckled, trying to cover it up. You, elder, have truly worked hard. No wonder you've been so busy lately. A subtle gleam flickered in Beckett's eyes, perfectly conveying the right sentiment. Roni observed for a moment, noticing that Beckett seemed indifferent, and he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. After chatting for a while, Roni felt the time was right, made an excuse for him to be at ease, and took the two women back to the room. Meanwhile, Baron Beckett leisurely sipped his drink, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Chapter 147. A move away from checkmate in the submarine room. The air was filled with a sweet scent, mingled with high-end perfume and a hint of musk. Outside the viewing window, a school of spindle-shaped fish gathered, their dull gazes following the moving figures inside, as if spying on this lavish human island. On the large bed, soft as clouds, Elder Roni sat against the headboard, bare-chested, his chest gently rising and falling, his face showing satisfaction and relaxation after a hearty meal. The dark-haired woman had put on a deep blue dress again, her hair loosely styled with a few strands falling. Kneeling at the edge of the bed, her delicate hands massaging his shoulders and neck. The chestnut-haired woman, casually draped in a silk robe, was holding a cup of warm water, serving Roni for rinsing his mouth, her eyes glimmering with post-coital submission and allure. Roni squinted his eyes, savoring this extreme comfort. At this moment, he felt completely at ease, utterly satisfied with Beckett's gift. Not bad, he hummed contentedly, patting the fair hand on his shoulder to signal her to stop, his gaze shifting to the cup of water on the bedside table. Bring me the water. The woman understood immediately, elegantly rising. Master, let me get you a fresh cup of tears of the tide to refresh you. Roni suddenly opened his eyes and slowly said, No need, this one is fine. All right. Just as she turned, a fleeting, barely perceptible sharp glint passed through her once submissive eyes. In the brief moment of contact with the cup, an invisible powder dissolved rapidly into the liquid. Sir, she handed the crystal cup to Roni. He took the cup, but did not drink immediately. He waited until the green light on his wristband lit up before he felt completely at ease. This indicated that the drink was safe and contained no toxins or abnormal compounds. The familiar crisp taste slid down his throat, with a hint of mild sweetness, making Roni feel even more alert. For someone like him, who frequently attended social events, His life was more precious than anything else, so security measures were naturally strict. He would only consume food or drink after scanning its ingredients. However, in reality, the rabbit family's biopharmaceutical technology surpassed that of others. Elder, the two women bowed, their voices reaching an unexpectedly harmonious frequency. As soon as they spoke, Ronnie's pupils began to dilate uncontrollably. Almost instantly, the dark-haired woman swiftly attached a magnetic thin sheet to his wristband, cutting off the signal. At that moment, the wristband's warning light turned red, indicating abnormal behavior detected by the monitoring system. Under normal circumstances, the elder's guard would have already rushed in to rescue him. The two women were tense for a moment, but when they saw there was no movement outside the door, they finally relaxed. Clearly, the signal interception was successful. If it had failed, their lives would have been forfeit. However, given their perspective, they could not fathom the deeper implications. In the realm of imperial aristocratic maneuvering, such matters are either not pursued at all, or one must have complete certainty. Just then, the indoor communicator emitted a prompt tone. Ronnie frowned, feeling somewhat impatient. Usually, the guards wouldn't disturb him at this time unless there were urgent matters. He was completely unaware that he had fallen into a trap. What is it? The voice of the guard captain outside came through the communicator respectfully. My lord, Lord Beckett requests an audience. He says it's about discussing the next steps of cooperation. Let him in. Yes. Even so, the guard captain outside remained highly vigilant, discreetly checking Ronnie's core indicators, which still showed green, indicating everything was normal. The cabin door opened. Lord Beckett entered with just the right amount of gravity and a hint of apology on his face. Apologies for disturbing your rest, Elder Ronnie. The cabin door closed, and that was the last thing the guards heard. Beckett sat down, frowning slightly as he observed the scene in the room. The key detail was that Ronnie was still wearing a leather collar around his neck. This is quite the game, he thought. He then glanced at the two women, who had already collapsed on the ground, their lives secure, but they're breathing deep. I have a question for you, Elder. Go ahead. Ronnie leaned against the headboard, showing no sign of unusualness. At this moment, his eyes were solely on Beckett. Inside Beckett's fingernail, the controller had already been activated. The first heir of the noble family, young Master Parker, has mobilized 500 million star coins from the treasury during such a critical period of the 5-decade ceremony. Does the elder know the direction of the fund flow and its deployment? At that moment, when Ronnie accidentally let something slip, Beckett sharply caught it. He projected an air of indifference, regardless of whether Ronnie believed it or not. If he left immediately, then they would both understand the unspoken agreement to be cautious in the future. If he didn't leave, well, then it would be someone else's fault. Parker? Ronnie murmured, his pupils slightly dilating and then contracting. Beckett narrowed his eyes, feeling secretly tense. If this information had been deeply shielded by that plump individual, then today's risky move would have been in vain. However, soon Ronnie began to slowly narrate, and the news caused Beckett's eyes to widen in shock. Parker has withdrawn 500 million and made a deal with someone named Lu Ling, a citizen of the Earth Federation, supposedly regarding the preparation time and speed of the jump engine. What? Beckett suddenly stood up. An Earth Federation citizen? Yes. This Earth Federation citizen was stranded in the Zhuangbai territory half a year ago and was rescued by the daughter of the pirate Rachel, Fengling. He modified a Nebula Shark-class destroyer with a jump speed of 120 ff and a preparation time of 60 seconds. Beckett was completely stunned, his heart racing. Even with his years of composure, he found it hard to contain himself at this moment. He had initially only caught a hint of Ronnie's slip and wanted to inquire about the direction of the 500 million investment to facilitate his efforts in bringing Zhuangbai into the Rabbit escort plan. He never imagined that he would uncover such a shocking and monumental secret. If Zhou Bei finds out, he will likely stop at nothing to tear him apart, let alone be enemies with Rabbit. Damn it. Beckett took a deep breath and slowly sat down, filled with regret. Since the situation has already occurred, he could only go all in and thoroughly extract the intelligence. If someone else had said such a thing, he would have merely laughed it off. Who doesn't know about the Federation, a powerful regime inheriting most of the pioneers' legacy, with technology far ahead of these barbaric small nations? But legends are, after all, legends. Now that it has manifestly appeared before him, Beckett couldn't help but believe it. He felt a twinge of envy for Zhou Bei's luck. Elder Ronnie, are you saying that someone from the Federation holds the technology to enhance the jump engine, and that young Master Parker has already reached a preliminary agreement with him? Yes, the Zhou Bei family is bound to rise. Here, let me congratulate you, Elder. Beckett's tone was calm. Have you seen that modified Nebula Shark with your own eyes? Or is there a specific performance report? A jump speed of 120 ff is simply unbelievable. Can you confirm the authenticity of this data? Could it be Parker's bluff? That ship has already been designed for destruction by Parker. My people found no jump engine in the wreckage, so it should have fallen into his hands. And this Lord Ling? Beckett's tone became extremely cautious, as if afraid of disturbing something. Is he still in the Zhou Bei Dominion? Was he personally received by young Master Parker, Or is he placed in some secure location? At the lakeside fortress in Halifa City, Beckett took another deep breath. The Council of Elders is already aware, right? Indeed. Roni's eyes showed a hint of struggle, but quickly returned to calm. It seems the Council has reached a consensus. Yujo Albay are indeed tight-lipped about such a major matter. Beckett paused and revealed a strange smile. Fortunately, Roni, my friend, my best buddy. You too. Hush. 500 million star coins for this jump technology? Beckett carefully chose his words. If the deep consciousness protection were triggered multiple times, Roni could very well awaken. Is it a buyout of the technology, or just a one-time collaboration? Have young Master Parker and this Lord Ling discuss the next steps? Or does Zhou Albay have further plans utilizing this technology? I don't know. The Council has tacitly approved Parker's actions. But the funds for the 5-decade ceremony are insufficient and are currently being raised. Oh, Beckett chuckled in surprise, having gained another crucial piece of information. It seems you have diverted the taxes owed to the Empire. We can gather the taxes before the 5-decade ceremony. Roni answered fluently, devoid of emotion. Is that so? Aren't you Zhou Albay afraid of the Empire finding out about what you're doing now? No one can refuse when the Federation brings a starship. Beckett's pupils dilated once again. But after this round of intelligence gathering, he had built up enough resilience. Where's the starship? I don't know, but it's most likely at the Carthage starport. What is the strength of the Federation? I don't know. Are there any attendants? Unclear. Do they have jump call capabilities? What is jump call? Do you have any leverage on Kruin? No. What about the 3 giants? None. How much cash is left in the Zhuanbei vault? 17 Roni's eyes showed signs of struggle. Where are you hiding? Roni fell silent. Clearly, such core secrets were deeply suppressed. However, it was hard to say where it might be. Beckett just asked casually, holding onto a sliver of hope. After all, what if, right? Before the arrival of the Federation people, he certainly wouldn't have asked such a foolish question. But now who could tell? As the effect of the drug was about to wear off, Beckett asked one last question. Where are Rachel and Fengling? Chapter 148 Life is but a dream. Hours later, Roni suddenly awoke from a state of bliss, his heart racing inexplicably. His first reaction was to raise his hand and stare at the monitoring ring on his wrist. The indicator light was steadily emitting a soft green glow, and all readings were normal. He let out a long sigh. That dream was too vivid, too real. The seemingly sincere face of Baron Beckett made him feel like a fool for being so open with him, sharing even the most secret worries of his family and Parker's movements. Roni shook his head to dispel the absurdity of it all, but his eyes gradually narrowed. He quickly got dressed, and as the hatch opened, he looked at the 4 standing guards. During my rest, did anyone approach here? Roni's voice was casual. No visitors, sir. The guard captain humbly bowed his head, his helmet obscuring all expression. The passage has been sealed off. Roni's gaze lingered for a moment on the captain's lowered helmet before moving away. Send the 2 women in the room to the Research Institute for mapping. If there are no issues, arrange for them to stay at the manor. Yes. Upon hearing this, Roni stepped towards the exit, paused imperceptibly. A moment of hesitation that was almost unnoticeable, but he ultimately did not turn back and walked straight out of the luxurious and secretive corridor. The submarine had long since returned to the underwater dome. An hour later, at Roni Manor, study. The initial neural scan report was quickly presented to Roni. The report showed no abnormalities. It was precisely the lack of abnormalities that tightened his brows even further. Could it really be an illusion? Right. He almost forgot about the order from Brother Kruin. Roni called someone in, and several shadowy soldiers respectfully knelt on one knee. Then he issued the order. Clean up the goods, leave no trace. The Death soldiers retreated into the shadows. Deep within Roni Manor, in an absolutely soundproof confinement room, the air was cold and stagnant, with only the low hum of the ventilation system reminding that time was still passing. Rachel and Reinka sat against the cold metal wall, their wrists and ankles secured by high-intensity magnetic shackles, making even slight movements extremely difficult. The expressions on the father and son's faces showed no emotion, only a numb silence. Father, when will they come to kill us? Rachel opened her eyes slightly. Probably soon. Reinka nodded. Father, I'm sorry, I couldn't. It's not your fault. This game was rigged from the start. We were merely pawns, used and discarded. Another silence fell in the confinement cell. RYNK's body went completely slack. Father, it's truly over. Rachel offered no reply, his gaze fixed on the monotonous, cold metal ceiling overhead. After a long pause, he murmured almost inaudibly, as if to himself, yes. The victors become kings, the defeated become outlaws. Life is but a dream. The cell door slid open. Several soldiers in black combat gear entered wordlessly, hoisting the 2 like livestock. Their movements were swift and silent. Rachel and his son exchanged a glance. There was no fear in their eyes. They soon reached the execution ground. The lead soldier wasted no time, raising his pulse pistol. Thud, thud. 2 nearly soundless shots pierced through Rachel and RYNK's hearts with precision. Their bodies crumpled to the ground. A professional medic swiftly checked their pulses, pupils, and scanned for vital signs. Confirmed deceased. Let's not dirty the floor, the doctor stated flatly. The soldiers handled the corpses like discarded waste, sealing them into specialized body bags and swiftly removing them from the execution site. Shortly after, an aircar departed the opulent seaside estate, merging into the flow of traffic. 26 minutes later, the aircar descended onto a landing pad in a designated incineration zone on the dark side of Carthage Star. This was an environmental security control area, tasked with burning all waste from the planet. Harmful gases were purified, and any residual materials were packaged and dispatched to a space graveyard. Each day, massive quantities of refuse were processed here. Two figures emerged from the vehicle, dragging the black body bags onto a transport drone. They soon arrived at a small incineration workshop, where two operators in gray uniforms stood waiting. Without a word exchanged, the operators unloaded the bags onto a conveyor belt leading into roaring, high-temperature flames. Only after the bags turned to ash did the attendants depart. The two operators worked in what sheet, shutting down the incinerator only after confirming the attendants had left. One of them climbed inside, retrieving two body bags from a hidden compartment. Unzipped, they revealed Rachel and Rynk, their faces ashen, clearly deceased for some time. Indeed, it had all been a sleight of hand. They made a living through such deceptions, fabricating deaths for those needing to disappear for various reasons. With the deceased often redirected to Blackwater Bay. Check them. They were dead before they got here. What now? Never mind. Let's just report it done. It's not our concern. 15 minutes later, in a remote city on Carthage, a low-profile aircar entered a freight warehouse. A taciturn driver opened the door for Lord Beckett, whose polished shoes echoed sharply on the dusty concrete floor. Tall and lean, draped in a dark gray overcoat, Beckett covered his nose and mouth with a damp cloth. His eyes filled with disgust at the sight of the unsealed body bags. If not for the mission, he would never willingly expose himself to such repulsive scenes. Everything has been handled cleanly, my lord. Two operators had changed their clothes, and one of them stepped forward in a flattering manner, but was stopped a few meters away by the driver. Beckett slightly lifted his chin. Behind him, a doctor carrying a silver metal case immediately approached, quickly probing the neck and chest of both individuals with gloved hands, followed by a small scanner aimed at their heads. Everything matched perfectly with the samples in the database. Vital signs had completely disappeared, and heart function had entirely failed. However, there was still a faint biological electrical activity remaining in the cerebral cortex, maintained in a state similar to deep sleep by unconventional means. It seemed that high-purity blood amber had been used to forcefully hold on to the last breath, preserving neuronal activity. Lord Beckett nodded slightly. Take it out. Okay. As soon as the doctor finished speaking, the silent driver moved swiftly, his actions leaving only two afterimages. Thud, thud. The expressions on the faces of the two operators who had just appeared eager to take credit instantly froze, their pupils dilated, and each had a small blood hole in their throats. Without a sound, they collapsed softly, the vitality in their eyes rapidly fading. The driver expressionlessly withdrew his hand, and the weapon was not even seen. Beckett regarded the slaughter before him with indifference, merely brushing off two strands of hair from his clothing. A few minutes later, two complete brain tissues, still containing slight traces of blood and soft tissue, were placed into a specially designed preservation jar, the lid closing with a hissing sound of sealing. This jar could ensure the brain's vitality. The doctor closed the metal case, stood up, and nodded to Beckett, indicating that it was done. Beckett took one last look at the scene of chaos. Clean it up, and send two clones over to the incineration site, he instructed and undid. Then turned and walked towards the flying car, not looking back. Chapter 149. Avoiding 200 years of detours. Young man, have you figured it out? Gadaz swayed her fair little legs, her golden pupils flashing with an astuteness that contrasted sharply with her youthful appearance. Lu Ling stroked his chin, pretending to ponder. Isn't that a bit inappropriate? There's quite an age gap between us. What does it matter? We can both avoid 200 years of detours. That makes sense, but I still want to find a compromise. Compromise? If I win, grant me a 1-year mining rights to the Mirage Well. Across from the study, the white-haired girl fell silent. Even her swinging little legs came to a stop. Are you okay? Lu Ling deliberately used her earlier teasing tone. Gadaz looked up, her golden eyes deeply examining him, and raised 3 fingers with her small hand. 3 months. The rules are simple. Whoever extracts the most common crystal within the specified time wins. No restrictions on the type or quantity of mining equipment, and no limits on the scale of production ships. Additionally, you need to persuade Count Clune yourself. Lu Ling laughed heartily, fully aware of what she intended to do. No problem. Do as you wish. Feel free to mobilize all fleets and mining machines. The afterglow of the setting sun bathed Lake Halifa in a warm golden satin hue. Lu Ling's figure stretched long in front of the large floor-to-ceiling windows of the lakeside castle corridor, the agreement with Gadaz already set. and the air seemed to still carry the mischievous and confident smile of the little girl. He did not linger and walked straight toward the laboratory deep within the castle's underground. The surface laboratory was softly lit. The green leaves had gone to rest, and only her twin assistants, who closely resembled each other and moved in perfect sync, remained on duty. Upon seeing Lu Ling, they silently bowed, then quickly returned their gaze to the holographic data stream in front of them, displaying complex biological indicators and energy graphs. Lu Ling nodded slightly, not disturbing them, and passed through layers of security alloy gates, heading toward the deeper core area. In the deep area, the space was even more expansive and dimly lit, with only a few giant cylindrical culture dishes emitting a soft, lifelike glow. The execution capability of Zawina was indeed impressive. In the blue nutrient solution, 3 figures were quietly suspended. They were Gira, Wayla, and Sheen. They were also core crew members of the Astro-class ship, and it was crucial for Lu Ling to prioritize their enhancement, as they played a vital role in this sister ship with a special mission. On the control panel nearby, the alpha gene optimization process had several dozen hours remaining. He stood quietly for a moment. It wouldn't be long before 3 absolutely loyal core combatants would be added to his ranks, and the strength of the Astro class would reach a new level. Returning to the study, he summoned the system to begin the daily recruitment. Female exotic dancer, 33 units, unit price 500,000 star coins. P.S. The dances of these dancers are completely acceptable in the Federation, but are considered a great sin in the Empire of Ima, a symbol of heresy. Purchase. Payment successful. The item has been stored in the hangar. Extract. Please select extraction location. Current position. Confirm extraction. Neural sync protocol loading. Loyalty mark injection complete. In the center of the study, under the halo of the setting sun, a figure materialized from the void, like a cocoon woven from light. In the next moment, as the light and shadow dissipated, a graceful woman stood there elegantly. She wore a wine-red off-shoulder velvet gown, the soft fabric perfectly hugging her full chest and slender waist. The skirt had a high slit on one side, revealing her long and proportionate thighs with each movement. Her skin was fair and delicate, glistening healthily in the sunlight. Her deep brown hair was slightly curled, lazily cascading over her smooth shoulders, with a few strands falling beside her cheeks. Her face was bright and stunning, with a pair of expressive peach blossom eyes that slightly lifted at the corners. Her lips painted in a vintage red, full and alluring, naturally curling upward with a hint of an enticing smile. A mature and sensual fragrance of perfume quietly filled the air, not overpowering but sufficient to stir the heartstrings. Once she steadied herself, her gaze fell directly and boldly on Lu Ling without any sign of shyness. Then she slowly bowed, her voice carrying a slightly husky magnetic tone, melodious and pleasant. Kristen, I have met the Marshal. Lu Ling calmly surveyed the alluring figure before him. His curiosity piqued as he summoned her information panel. Information name, Christine age, 27 status. Vital signs stable position. Dancer, Senior Commissioner of Extraterrestrial Joint Mining Skills. Total 72 Spaceship Control V. Advanced Spaceship Control V. Leadership Theory V. Flagship Operation V. Flagship Command V. Industrial Theory V. Supply Chain Management V. Accounting V. Business Tycoon V. Marketing V. Ice Mining Collection and Compression Theory V. Gas Cloud Collection and Compression Theory V. Mining Technology V. Satellite or Processing Technology V. Shipboard Compression Technology V. Aggregate or Processing Technology V. Deep Core Mining Research V. Pioneering Mining Technology V. Command Pulse Wave Specialized Research V. Mining Management Technology V. Fleet Command Theory V. Advanced Drone Electronics Theory V. Jump Engine Operation Theory Affiliation. Joint Mining ORE. Outer Ring Excavations. Lu Ling held his breath, impressed. A commanding officer of a flagship. As a senior commissioner of the joint mining operation, he couldn't help but wonder why she chose to be a dancer. It's a hobby, Marshal, she said, her red lips parting, her tone as relaxed as discussing the afternoon sun. It makes me feel free. Would you like to see for yourself? Well, I can't refuse such an invitation, so let us see. Christine's smile blossomed instantly, like the most exquisite rose. Without hesitation, she elegantly stepped back a few paces and positioned herself on the sunlit carpet in the center of the study. Without music, she gently closed her eyes, and her aura suddenly transformed. A rhythmic snap of her fingers broke the stillness of the room. Her long neck tilted slightly back, and her shoulders began to sway to an unheard beat, guiding her ample bosom to create an enticing melody. Her waist, wrapped in a velvet gown, twisted slowly yet powerfully, each movement filled with a tension that was both restrained and passionate. Her arms extended gracefully, wrists turning, fingertips seemingly sketching an invisible score in the air. The burgundy hem of her dress flowed with her movements, revealing glimpses of her smooth, well-proportioned legs, their skin glistening delicately in the sunset. While her dance was enchanting, There was also an intriguing blend of the sharpness and strength typical of mining elites, perfectly intertwined with ultimate feminine allure. Suddenly, she executed a fluid spin, her skirt blossoming like a red flower, then leaned back into a challenging pose that showcased her perfect form. Once steady, she slowly rose, her fingertips gliding from her thigh to her waist, ultimately striking a pose filled with invitation. Half an hour later, Marshall, did my hobby catch your eye? Christine was breathing slightly heavily, beads of sweat forming on her forehead, her cheeks flushed. Her peach blossom eyes were fixed on Lu Ling, carrying a hint of pride after her performance and anticipation for judgment. Lu Ling took a deep breath and sighed sincerely. No wonder your dance is considered a grave sin in the Empire. Christine smiled charmingly. The people here do not understand the art of freedom. In the void of the Cycler-class mining station, an assault craft emerged from the shadows. The Cycler-class mining barge, Owari, was designed by an interstellar mining conglomerate to elevate the mining industry to a new height. Each type of barge has its strengths, and the Cycler-class excels in capacity. Its enormous hold allows it to conduct mining operations for extended periods without the need for logistical support like other mining barges. Every day, I have to climb 2 mountains, one of ore and one of currency, thought Lu Ling while observing the anonymous miners in the bar at the space station. Specifications: length, 411 meters, width, 246 meters, height, 143 meters, mass, 39, 150, 000 tons, effective shield strength, 5. 500 TJD, effective armor strength, 4. 500 TJD, effective structural strength, 6. 000 TJD, capacitor core, 10. 950 TJ, recharge time 15 minutes 7 seconds, reactor output, 12. 700 GWH, maximum cruise speed, 425 ms, jump preparation time, 10 seconds, jump speed, 35 Australian dollars, or hold capacity, 1. 300. 000 m, drone bandwidth, 3. 000 bits, mining slots, 04, medium weapon slots, 02, small weapon slots, 06, high energy slots, 03, medium energy slots, 05, low energy slots, 07, upgrade slots, 03, sale price, 224. 000 ISK mining equipment doesn't even take up weapon slots? Lu Ling was slightly taken aback. He thought he must have read it wrong and took another look. The defense was tougher than a tornado, and with this bandwidth, he could completely assemble multiple mining drones and combat drone fleets. Did he really need escorts for this? Lu Ling stroked his chin, pondering whether to change his plan and focus entirely on mining teams. However, he didn't have industrial buildings and couldn't build ships. He then placed an order for 4 open-pit mining units. They were indeed expensive, costing 80 million each, but upon seeing the extraction rate, he was left in shock. Open-pit mining unit, a large ore collector specifically designed for mining barges and excavators. Length, 17 m, extraction rate, 6. 000 m min, residue factor, 0, optimal working range, 15 kilometers, market price, 20, 000 ISK, 224, 000 80, 000 wallet balance, 426, 890, 882. Lu Ling then glanced at several mining drones. They looked like bugs. Mining drone type 1, length, 30 meters bandwidth, 5 bits shield, 30 TJD armor, 20 TJD structure, 40 TJD length, 30 meters max cruising speed, for thousands mining capacity, 280 m min market price, 500. 000 ISK, mining drone type 2, length, 30 meters bandwidth, 5 bits shield, 80 TJD armor, 50 TJD structure, 80 TJD length, 30 meters max cruising speed, 6,000 mining capacity, 800 m min market price, 5. 000 ISK Type 2 is a bit expensive. Unless you're pursuing extreme mining efficiency, it's unnecessary to purchase. Lu Ling bought 50 Type 1 mining drones. 50 000 wallet balance, 376, 890, 882. This high bandwidth cannot be wasted. Combat drones for escort are also needed. Lu Ling bought 10 Bodyguard Sentinel drones. Bodyguard Sentinel drone, length, 11 meters bandwidth, 25 bits weapon, quad 425 millimeters automatic cannon, ammunition capacity, 160 rounds, shield, 1400 TJD armor, 600 TJD structure, 800 TJD optimal range, 250 kilometers market price, 600. 000 ISK 2, 400. 000 heavy attack drone berserker, length, 15 m bandwidth, 25 bits weapon, 425 millimeters automatic cannon, Ammunition capacity, 80 rounds, shield, 400 TJD armor, 360 TJD structure, 520 TJD max cruising speed, 15 kilometers, market price, 500. 000 ISK, 5,000,000. Wallet balance, 369, 490, 882. Lu Ling thought about how little he had left, and with the current setup, he couldn't afford other ships, especially with crew members still in training, which all required time. So he directly outfitted this ship to the teeth. He didn't know how significant this decision would be shortly. Light reconnaissance drone Samurai, 200 length, 7M bandwidth, 5 bits weapon, 125mm automatic cannon, ammunition capacity, 100 rounds, shield, 100 TJD armor, 90 TJD structure, 130 TJD max cruising speed, 42 kilometers, market price, 80. 000 ISK, 16, 000 ISK. Subsequently, Lu Ling purchased the main weapon, 720mm howitzer. This 720mm howitzer is rocket-assisted and designed for long-range bombardment. Must be loaded with the following types of ammunition: carbon lead shells, hard molybdenum shells, electromagnetic pulse shells, fusion shells, core shells, phase-matching ion shells, proton shells, and titanium alloy sabot shells. Long axis, 14M maximum range, 650 kilometers, deviation, optimal range, 350 kilometers initial speed, 150 kilometers market price, 2, 500, 000 ISK, 5, 000. 000 ISK. Lu Ling also bought the Essential or Scanner, which is inexpensive and can directly scan the category and composition of ores. Measurement Scanner scans the mineral composition of asteroids, ice mines, and gas clouds. Scanning range, 250 kilometers market price, 1, 000 ISK. Finally, some small weapons, shields, and battery-related equipment cost over 30 million, with ammunition taking up a significant portion. Wallet balance, 318, 490, 882. Lu Ling opened the fitting interface and fitted everything, then took a deep breath and summoned this third Eve battleship, or rather, the first Eve mining barge. Activation successful. Please name the ship Black Coal Mine Number 1. Black Coal Mine Number 1, Reveler-class mining barge, named successfully. Extraction. Please select extraction location, current position, confirm extraction, come forth, Black Coal Mine. Number 1. Buzz. An invisible yet powerful force field suddenly expanded, causing the space before him to distort violently, creating ripples akin to water waves. But soon, these ripples abruptly calmed. As if nothing had happened, Lu Ling clicked board ship directly from his assets. The moment the command took effect, the subspace cloaking began to peel away, revealing the stunning hull. The first to break through the disguise was the massive arched structure spanning the middle of the hull, reflecting a heavy metallic luster under the starlight. Immediately, the entire outline of the ship was fully revealed. The Reveler class was not a streamlined vessel, but was composed of numerous regular rectangular compartments and armor plates stacked together, resembling a moving refinery. The deep blue-gray color scheme made it almost blend into the starry sky behind, yet the large, prominent bright yellow paint and warning stripes clearly outlined its shape. These yellow blocks marked critical operational interfaces, energy conduits, and huge cargo bay valves, exuding an industrial aesthetic of practical beauty. At the rear of the ship, multiple robust thruster nozzles silently pointed into the void, radiating a sense of immense power even at rest. Meanwhile, on the right rear of the hull, a massive, semi-transparent golden ORE, outer ring excavations, logo slowly lit up, proclaiming its pure heritage from the Outer Ring Excavation Group. This Reveler-class mining barge hovered quietly, its massive shadow completely enveloping Lu Ling's assault ship. It lacked the sharp, killing intent of a warship, but carried a reassuring, steady, and reliable weight. The assault ship glided lightly into its drone bay. Behind him were Christine and over 20 refugees who had previously worked in joint mining operations, along with a few laborers. These refugees had undergone genetic rating assessments and were rated F, possessing some mining-related skills. As for the laborers, the unit price is 2.5 million star coins, with a genetic rating starting at E, and there are 2 silver ratings, with a comprehensive genetic rating of D. The passengers from Eve differ from the alphas. The alpha genes are fully optimized, while these refugees and laborers are non-combat types, with abilities leaning towards production, and all ability ratings are comprehensive, with some high and some low. As for Christine, she hasn't been tested yet, including Sarah, but it can be assumed that her rating will be much higher than the C of the Dark Raven, at least S. Aura, take over the control. Requesting authorization. Authorization granted. Permission sequence updating. Update complete. Control of Black Coal Mine Number 1 obtained. Take me to the bridge. Navigation path generated. The competition with Gerda started the moment they left her estate. Chapter 151. Compressed Core. The hangar of the Cycler-class drones is different from the Death Spiral or Astro class. It resembles a busy industrial dispatch center. The space is exceptionally vast, high enough to accommodate large industrial drones. The walls are lined with dense multi-layer racks, where small drone warriors and mining drones are parked, while the larger Berserker heavy attack drones are directly stationed on the open tarmac. Below the tarmac lies a bottomless large drone storage area. Some square-headed mini maintenance and supply drones, marked with the ORE logo, silently shuttle along preset tracks, performing daily maintenance tasks. This is the hive of the ship's worker bees, the forefront of automated mining. A soft blue light strip illuminates the floor, guiding them towards the hatch. "Keep up," Lu Ling said to Christine and the others. Stepping first into the open hatch. The Cycler class is only equipped with a limited number of hoverboards, and Lu Ling led Christine to the bridge. Christine's gaze scanned the equipment and devices, murmuring in disbelief and curiosity. Is this for clone pilots? The hatch closed behind them, completely isolating them from the noise of the hangar. They stepped into an exceptionally wide and brightly lit internal passage. Unlike the bustle of the hangar, there was a unique silence characteristic of a standby state. On both sides of the passage were transparent glass portholes, and to the left and right was a vast, suffocating industrial workshop. Lu Ling was also observing. It was his first time here, and every ship is different. "Marshall, why choose to use standard ships for clone pilots?" Christine asked directly. Her personality is quite different from Sayre's reserved nature. As a former dancer and mining commissioner, she is more extroverted and talkative. Lu Ling was taken aback by the question. What else could it be? A lack of funds. The wallet doesn't allow it. However, he seamlessly continued with the same reasoning as Sayre, his tone steady and visionary. "We are in the initial stage of exploring this unknown star region. According to current intelligence, the local native strength has not yet reached the level that requires us to deploy the core fleet. These standard ships for clone pilots have performance and scale that are more than sufficient to ensure our safety during this exploratory period. At this stage, what we urgently need is not one or two flawless, powerful superstar ships, but rather to establish a reliable, replicable standardized development system, a modular ship configuration, a standardized operational process, and most importantly, an elite crew that has undergone real combat training and can proficiently master these standard equipment. These ships are the seeds we plant and the best training platform we have. They may not be powerful enough, but they are sufficient for us to establish a foothold, accumulate experience, and cultivate talent. When our crew can skillfully operate these standard vessels, it will be the day we step towards greater strength. I apologize, Marshall." Her voice lost some of its charm and gained more seriousness. She paused, her gaze becoming intense. "Since this is our starting point and training platform, please allow me to introduce you to the true potential of the Cycler class." She took a step to the side, no longer following behind, but becoming the guide. She extended her arm, elegantly yet precisely pointing to the large, dormant industrial workshop on the left side of the passage. "Look here, Marshall. This is the first link in our processing, the Cycler class crushing line." Her voice was clear and professional, filled with a sense of pride, as if introducing her treasured possession. "As I mentioned earlier, its performance and size are severely compromised, but its core multi-jaw crushing structure and laser pre-splitting system are still authentic designs from ORE. It can initially crush raw or with a diameter under 15 meters to below 1 centimeter, preparing it for subsequent refining. Look at the blue grating below the conveyor belt. Those are weight sensors and metal detection arrays, ensuring that only ore blocks meeting the standards can enter the next stage. She guided the marshal forward. After passing the crushing line, the raw ore would be sent to the electric arc furnace. Christine pointed to an oversized furnace, several dozen meters in diameter, located behind the conveyor belt. I was unsure of the furnace material, but it must have made some compromises, as its thermal efficiency cannot match that of the ORE electric arc furnace. She paused and explained. The core function of the electric arc furnace is to use high temperatures and centrifugal force to separate minerals of different densities, purifying impurities and retaining only the most stable high-grade mineral crystalline structures. Therefore, the cooling system also needs to be extremely efficient. Christine's gaze fell on the silver cooling pipes surrounding the furnace, her tone tinged with helplessness. However, judging by the specifications of these pipes, the cooling efficiency is likely very low. But I suppose the power of this simplified electric arc furnace is also shockingly low. Lu Ling shrugged nonchalantly. It's just a ship operated by a lowly being. Does such a being have rights? Crossing the corridor, she pointed to an area wrapped in multiple layers of armor, emitting a low humming sound. This is the energy distribution center and the periphery of the dedicated industrial reactor. It is the power heart of the entire industrial ship. Although its output power is limited, its energy management logic is excellent. It can intelligently distribute energy dynamically between crushing, smelting, compression, shields, and propulsion. ensuring that it does not overload or crash in any operational state. This system is the essence of our ORI technology. Without an industrial core, can compression still be achieved? Lu Ling seized upon a key point. Yes, Christine affirmed, but it requires a significant amount of energy. The so-called industrial core is fundamentally valuable for greatly optimizing energy consumption, achieving efficient compression and enhancing operational efficiency. As they walked through the corridor, they entered an extremely wide passageway, a large corridor at least 30 meters wide, over 100 meters high, and more than 300 meters long. Many automated vehicles and drones were parked nearby. On both sides of the passage, there were 4 giant cargo module units arranged in a row, each hatched door towering like a small mountain, embodying the aesthetic of heavy industry. With a total capacity of 1.3 million cubic meters, this aspect was no different from the ORI-class vessels. At the end of the cargo corridor was a small automated scheduling center, which provided direct access to the bridge command unit. The two of them passed through the last airlock door, took the elevator, and walked through a semicircular alloy archway, where the scene before them suddenly opened up. The bridge of the ORI class resembled not a command center, but rather a highly efficient industrial assembly line monitoring control room. The entire bridge was exceptionally spacious, featuring a multi-layer, open-plan design, with a width comparable to that of other large vessels and a height of over 20 meters, consisting of 5 levels. The color scheme was dominated by ORI's signature deep blue-gray, with all operational interfaces, emergency control buttons, and functional zones clearly marked with striking bright yellow and orange lines, exuding a sense of industrial practicality. Directly ahead was a massive main observation window, currently transparent, clearly displaying the vastness of the starry sky outside. To the left of the bridge was the core area of the ship, managing mining and refining, as well as the compression control unit. Here, there were 15 main mining operator stations arranged side by side, along with a 5-person station responsible for drone control. To the right of the bridge was the energy and cargo management area. This section only had 8 seats, with several screens monitoring the recently passed crushing assembly line, the operational status of the arc furnace, and displaying key parameters such as temperature, pressure, and separation purity. Another large screen clearly showed the real-time status of the 8 cargo holds, capacity, pressure, temperature, and fixed anchor point status, with each cargo hold capable of being controlled and monitored individually. In the center were several positions for basic controls such as navigation, star maps, weapon defense, and shield distribution. On the 4th level, elevated 2 steps above the main plane, was the captain's command seat. The armrests on both sides integrated communication, tactical maps, and a 1-button emergency control module. Behind the command seat, on the 5th level, was the engineering and power monitoring station. This was the energy hub control point of the entire ship, responsible for coordinating the output of a modified industrial reactor, dynamically allocating energy among different systems such as crushing, smelting, shields, and propulsion to ensure stable and continuous mining operations. All data streams of this industrial giant converged here, standardized and efficient, everything under control. Lu Ling stepped up to the captain's seat, and sure enough, beneath the seat was a misty gray egg. He took a step up the platform and calmly sat down in the command chair. Christine took her seat in the lower officer's chair. System self-check completed. All units on standby. Ola, I authorize you to automatically load the star map from now on. Star map database has been linked. Star map of the entire Pasha Empire has been loaded. Navigation to Zhuangbai Refinery number 45. Jump engine preparing. Cycler class slightly adjust direction. Jump engine activated. Chapter 152. The opening of the black coal mine Zhuangbai Refinery number 45, Deep Space Asteroid Belt. The massive steel hive reflected a cold sheen under the light of distant stars, with countless transport ships bustling like worker bees. At its edge, in a relatively open area where only a few inconspicuous small asteroids floated, a flash of jump light suddenly tore through the tranquil starry sky. The industrial-style hull of the Cycler class emerged from the darkness, silently exiting the jump channel and gliding toward this location. Inside the bridge, Lu Ling stood in front of the large viewport, calmly scanning the busy refinery in the distance, finally resting her gaze on 2 already marked brownish-gray asteroids, each about 1 kilometer in diameter. These are the 2 1-kilometer asteroids involved in the bet, located 60 kilometers away from the refinery. Theoretically, if the refinery operates at full capacity of 2 billion tons per day, such asteroids could be completely mined in 1 day. However, this is merely theoretical. The reality is that a drill bit of Zhuangbai is over 10 meters in diameter, and even if an asteroid is filled with drill bits, it is still far less than the tens of thousands of drilling wells in this refinery. Of course, this is exactly how Gaddis is proceeding. The engineering ship is already constructing the transport pipeline, and she is going all out, incorporating the entire area into the pipeline network. Since the plan is to mine here, expanding it naturally makes sense. These pipelines, stretching for dozens of kilometers, will take over 20 days just to lay down. The total time is set for 3 months. Unfortunately, at the Cycler class's full mining speed of 36,500 m per minute, a 1-kilometer asteroid could be completely mined in just 13 days. P.S. A 1-kilometer diameter asteroid has a total volume of approximately 523.6 billion cubic meters. This gamble had already ended when Lu Ling brought out the Cycler. As for Lu Ling requesting a time frame of 3 months, it was merely to keep Gaddis complacent. Originally, he wanted to say 1 month, but was afraid she wouldn't take the bait. These nobles are cunning. Ola, scan the composition of the target asteroid. Scan completed. Gaddis A. Estimated reserve of ordinary crystal or 12, 452,694 m. Average content 266. Lu Ling B. Estimated reserve of ordinary crystal or 12, 832,694 m. Average content 272. Clearly, Gaddis had already analyzed the composition in advance, even providing Lu Ling with a bit more. However, such a large mass contains only a little over 2% of ordinary crystal ore. The vast majority consists of basic elements like iron and nickel. In the distance, Gaddis, on an engineering ship, coldly observed all of this, her golden pupils blinking, reflecting the industrial-style mining barge. Lu Ling adjusted the captain's seat to zero-gravity mode and lay down lazily, saying, "Activate the open-pit mining device, release all mining drones, and only extract the common crystal stones. I don't want anything else." On the left side of the bridge, a newly onboard crew member, under Aura's instruction, began to operate the system. They were locking onto the target. The energy pathways were being established. The open-pit mining device array was activated and functioning normally. Launch. At the moment the command was executed, the focusing lens component on the base of the open-pit mining device began to spin rapidly, filling with a heart-pounding emerald green energy glow. The green was so pure it seemed to concentrate the vitality of an entire forest, yet it carried the cold texture of the industrial age. A low, powerful energy hum resonated through the ship's body, not harsh but palpable, making everyone feel the immense power contained within. In the next moment, several thick emerald green laser beams shot out like the spears of giants from both the upper and lower sides of the ship, instantly crossing the vastness of space and accurately striking the surface of asteroid B. Upon contact with the rock layers, there was no violent explosion. Under the ultra-high energy density of the laser, the rock layers melted away like snow. Since Lu Ling did not require basic elements like iron and nickel, the laser beams stripped away a large amount of rocky powder. Although this initially excavated powder appeared small, each particle actually ranged from several meters to tens of meters in diameter. Only the common crystal stones were cleverly separated, guided by the powerful directional constraint field of the mining device, forming several streams of common crystal stones that surged toward the broken conveyor outlet of the ship. Almost simultaneously, several hatches at the rear of the ship opened. Mining drone cluster ejection. A swarm of mining drones flew out from their racks, like a disturbed hive leaving its nest. Once in space, they began to unfold their tail storage units, transforming from 5 meters to over 30 meters in size as oversized drones. They scattered, and a series of mining laser beams struck the ore, intertwining into a magnificent and unpredictable emerald green light net, reflecting in the golden pupils of Gaddis. Was this a combination of laser mining and gravity capture technology? It must consume a significant amount of energy. Meanwhile, the internal data of the ship was also providing real-time feedback. The mineral flow was received normally, and stable trajectories had been established. It was being transported to Crusher No. 1, and Crusher number 2 was functioning normally. Crushers number 2 and number 3 were working well. The arc furnace was ignited. It began refining the common crystal stones and separating impurities. The refining unit was activated. The impurities were successfully separated, and the purity of the common crystal stones reached 99.98. The compression force field was initializing, and the industrial reactor output power was at 100. Christine spoke up. Divert 35 energy from the main reactor to the compression device. Compression was underway, with an estimated completion time of 10 seconds. Capacitor consumption was at 002 and 009. Compression completed, adjusting reactor power supply, and the capacitor core was recharging. Compressed minerals were being transported to the mineral chamber. On the right side of the bridge, the cargo management screen displayed the capacity figures for cargo hold number 1, which began to fluctuate. Although the increments were small, they rose steadily and alarmingly at a constant and efficient pace. Cargo hold number 1, 1050, 162, 500 m. Cargo hold number 2, 580, 162, 500 m. Cargo hold number 3, 144, 162, 500 m. The entire process, from laser stripping to crushing and refining, and finally compressing into standardized mineral bricks for easy storage and transport, was completed seamlessly within the vessel, forming a perfect closed-loop production line. Inside the command bridge of the industrial flagship, the atmosphere was starkly different from the calm efficiency on the other vessel. The bridge was filled with a gradually intensifying weight and suppressed agitation, with everyone busily engaged, even with the assistance of the intelligence systems, calculating vast amounts of data. The petite figure of Gaddis sat in the captain's seat, her golden pupils locked onto the industrial ship in the distance, which was emitting streams of emerald green light, along with the giant drones buzzing around like a swarm of bees. She could not see the specific data inside the other vessel, but her top engineers and analysts were desperately using all the advanced remote sensing equipment on board to capture every possible piece of information. President, a chief engineer responsible for sensor data analysis, exclaimed, his voice trembling with disbelief, even forgetting to use formalities. We've done preliminary calculations. Based on the spectral analysis of the mineral flow, the estimated mineral collection rate of the target ship is over 36,000 m per minute. Over 36,000 per minute? Repeated an expert in charge of capacity comparison, his voice faltering. The screen in front of him displayed real-time data from the entire mining system. We've deployed 180,000 drilling machines, each with a daily maximum output of only 3,000 m. And their single ship collects 360,000 cubic meters per minute, meaning a daily collection of 51,840,000 cubic meters. That's equivalent to the capacity we achieve by utilizing nearly 20,000 drilling machines and incurring immense infrastructure costs. One ship matches nearly 1/10 of the scale of our entire refining plant. How is that possible? It's just one ship. Another older expert, with graying hair and specializing in energy efficiency, stared at the energy detection readings, his face pale. What's even more frightening is the energy efficiency ratio. The daily energy consumption required to maintain our 180,000 drilling machines, thousands of kilometers of pipelines, and the entire refining plant is astronomical. Yet that ship's energy radiation characteristics are terrifyingly stable. Based on reverse calculations, the total energy consumption for such massive mining and internal refining compression may be less than 1/10,000th of our entire system's energy consumption. This energy utilization technology is simply unheard of. And the thermal turbulence. A young technician pointed at the screen, where a bright blue plasma stream was periodically erupting from the side of the other vessel, lasting only a few seconds but exceptionally bright. In the pitch-black backdrop of the universe, the plasma flow resembled a briefly unsheathed lightsaber, although its length was merely a few hundred meters. Far inferior to the sprawling orange flames of a refinery stretching for several kilometers, the energy characteristics it contained sent shockwaves through all experts. In space, the best way to dissipate heat is to expel it. The peak temperature of its thermal radiation spectrum exceeded 1 million Kelvin, and spectral lines indicated that its main components were highly ionized helium and trace amounts of metal vapor. This was the massive waste heat produced during the refining and compression processes. What? The crowd gasped. It even comes with compression and refining? How is that possible? Our refineries require multiple processes and take hours. Isn't this a relic of the pioneers? The entire analysis team fell into a collective state of speechlessness and shock. They were all top figures in the mining sector of the Zhuangbai Autonomous Region. Having spent their lives dealing with ores, machinery, and energy, they were well aware of the theoretical limits and practical bottlenecks of every technology, as well as the enormous investment and complex management required to maintain a vast industrial system. However, the unknown mining barge before them was presenting their entire industrial model, relying on economies of scale, mechanized integration, and large infrastructures, in a manner that made it seem as clumsy and inefficient as primitive humans wielding stone axes. It wasn't just faster or stronger. It showcased an entire production paradigm that transcended their understanding across several dimensions, from unit efficiency and energy utilization to process integration and spatial utilization. Gates listened to her elite subordinates reporting with fear and confusion, feeling the atmosphere in the bridge shift as if their beliefs were collapsing. Her golden eyes slightly flickered. She had initially thought this was a contest of scale and technology, but it now appeared to be a dimensional strike. Unless they compared it with all of Zhuangbai's refineries together. But was that necessary? They had lost. The white-haired girl said Dindandao, then sank into the captain's seat and turned to leave the bridge. Everyone, at the highest level of confidentiality. Chapter 153, Marquis Rabbit Carthage, Khalifa City, Lily Hotel. This towering structure, rising 1,000 meters, overlooks the bustling Khalifa City with its absolute height and unique tranquility. It is one of the landmarks of the city. Yet it does not belong to Zhuangbai, but is directly under the illustrious Lily Duke family of the empire. The emblem of this lily, symbolizing purity, protection, and absolute safety, has already blossomed on every planet within the Empire's territory, even in the most remote and chaotic exile lands. Seeing this lily emblem signifies finding a harbor of order and safety. Most importantly, the Lily Hotel upholds the ancient tradition of the Empire as a recognized neutral sanctuary. Any guest who successfully checks in, regardless of their identity or grievances outside, is under the protection of the Lily family within the hotel premises. Those who violate this rule are opposing the Lily family. Therefore, very few people openly provoke trouble at the hotel. The building is constructed entirely from a special composite material, which is not only indestructible but also capable of adaptively adjusting its optical properties. During the day, it refracts a soft and noble golden glow akin to the dawn. At night, it flows with a deep blue light that represents absolute tranquility and security, as if making a silent declaration. At this moment, in the hotel's imperial suite, Lord Beckett stands before the large arched floor-to-ceiling window, gazing out at the view of the lake. The imperial suite is renowned for its absolute security, functioning as a perfect information island. The hotel staff undergoes rigorous selection and training by the family, making them not only top-tier attendants but also, when necessary, cold guards who ensure the privacy and safety of guests are foolproof. This extraordinary level of protection naturally comes with a corresponding expensive price tag. Approximately 60 star coins per night, and the hotel only accepts star coins. However, for someone like Beckett, who requires absolute confidentiality and security, this expense is worth it. He takes a deep breath, as if trying to inhale the atmosphere of absolute safety, turning it into courage. He turns and walks toward a more secluded soundproof study within the suite, a hidden room provided by the hotel for top-tier guests, specifically designed for handling confidential matters. The heavy alloy door closes silently behind him, completely isolating him from the last traces of light and sound from the outside. The study is softly lit, with only a few wall-embedded light strips emitting a warm glow. Beckett does not turn on the main light. He needs this near-absolute tranquility and darkness to concentrate. He first takes out a palm-sized black metal disc, covered with intricate patterns, from his inner pocket and gently places it on the table in the center of the room. Pressing the activation button in the center, a nearly invisible pale blue energy field instantly unfolds, like a transparent dome enveloping the entire study. This is a signal jammer and interdimensional communication device specially crafted by a certain family, capable of effectively interfering with most known detection and eavesdropping technologies. Even the hotel's top security system finds it difficult to penetrate. After completing this step, he still feels uneasy and raises his wrist to activate an extremely discreet encryption module on his personal wristband. A layer of more subtle, higher-frequency energy waves ripples outward from him, serving as a second layer of insurance. Only under this double shield does Beckett feel slightly more at ease. He adjusts his slightly tense collar. Although the temperature in the study is comfortable, beads of sweat form on his forehead. After sitting quietly for a moment, he wipes away the sweat with a tissue, takes another gentle breath, and exhales slowly. Because what comes next is the true test. He carefully retrieves an object from his inner pocket, a thumb-sized crystalline object of deep purple hue. It is translucent, with what appears to be mist-like energy flowing slowly within, occasionally flashing with a faint, arc-like light. This is the extremely rare purple crystal. A superconducting crystal structure made of Shin crystal contains an enormous amount of energy. One piece is worth the equivalent of 10,000 star coins, and there is usually a high demand but low supply. He gently placed the precious amethyst on the black metal base that had already been prepared on the table. The surface of the base immediately lit up with faint blue luminescent patterns, like a neural network being awakened, securely wrapping and stabilizing the amethyst. A deep and steady humming sound of energy resonated. The mist inside the amethyst began to spin faster, and the light grew brighter. This was the only consumable capable of supporting interstellar communication, with one amethyst roughly maintaining a stable real-time connection for 1 minute. Each use meant burning through vast wealth in exchange for a moment of absolute confidentiality in communication. Generally, it would be impossible for Beckett to use it. As the amethyst was fully activated, a holographic projection rose, but it was empty. At this moment, the crystal's energy had begun to deplete, which also meant that the timer had started. The connection request had been sent out, waiting for a response in this absolute silence. It was rather amusing. This was his first time communicating directly with the Marquis in such a confidential and high-level manner. In the past, he could only interact with the Marquis as chief advisor at most. The praises that Roni mentioned about the Marquis were merely common phrases used in the social scene to elevate one's status. If it weren't for the highly valuable interests at stake, this minor baron wouldn't even have the qualification to meet Count Krun, let alone the Marquis. As a minute was about to pass, Beckett took out another amethyst, occasionally wiping the fine sweat from his forehead. He was confident that with the information he possessed and the current expenditure, he would earn back double no matter how long it took. This bit of consumption was nothing significant. Finally, after about 3 minutes of waiting, the holographic projection flickered, and Lord Beckett wiped away the sweat, sitting up straight. A young man dressed in deep purple attire appeared in the holographic projection, handsome in appearance, but with eyes so deep they were inscrutable, exuding an innate sense of nobility and pressure. It was none other than Marquis Rabbit Eisen. Lord Beckett, long time no see. Eisen's voice was young yet mature, rich in magnetism, providing a sense of security. If he remembered correctly, the last time they met was over 100 years ago at his mother's birthday celebration, where you gifted the Silverlight Dominion with youth preservation. Beckett's heart jolted, and he immediately bowed deeply, his posture humble to the extreme. He had not expected the Marquis to have such an astonishing memory, recalling even the insignificant gift he had given as a minor character a century ago. Your Excellency, you manage countless affairs daily, yet you remember such trivial matters. I am deeply honored. Beckett's voice was filled with gratitude and reverence. I have risked everything to use this secure line to disturb you because I discovered a shocking secret in the Zhuangbai Dominion that could shake the existing structure and may even concern the future of the Empire. The situation is urgent and significant, and I dare not delay for a moment. I must report to you immediately. All right, I will cancel my other appointments. Beckett swallowed hard, taking a deep breath and daring not to conceal or embellish anything further. He laid out the meticulously prepared intelligence in a clear and orderly manner. From Parker's unusual transfer of 500 million star coins from the Wanbei treasury to the mysterious appearance of the individual from the Earth Federation, Lu Ling. From the astonishing jump performance of the Nebula Shark-class destroyers after their modifications, along with the subsequent destruction and engine doubts, to Lu Ling currently living under the protection of Wanbei by the shores of Lake Halifax. Then to the transaction between Parker and Lu Ling regarding the enhancement of jump engine technology and the bold speculation that Lu Ling might possess a real Earth Federation starship, which could be hidden somewhere in the Carthage starport. Beckett's report aimed to be as objective as possible, but it highlighted the disruptive potential of the technology and the strategic advantage Wanbei might gain from it, while also pointing out the financial pressure Wanbei faced due to this transaction. The Wanbei family might not be able to pay the imperial taxes on time. As he narrated, a slight but extremely subtle change appeared on the young and calm face of Marquis Rabbit. When he heard the term Earth Federation, his long fingers, which had been casually resting on the armrest of the chair, paused imperceptibly for half a second. When Beckett mentioned the 120 FF jump speed and the potential existence of a Federation starship, the Marquis displayed a look of surprise. In summary, my Lord Marquis, Beckett concluded, the Wanbei family could potentially achieve a technological leap far beyond our estimates with this opportunity. If they monopolize this benefit, it could threaten the interests and status of the Rabbit family in the Cassiopeia constellation, even leading to the collapse of the Empire. Fear? Marquis Eisen smiled gently, then slowly replied, it is a certainty. Beckett respectfully lowered his head. His intelligence had been delivered, and the stone weighing on his heart finally fell. Thus, the Marquis would surely protect him. Even if Longmi informed Wanbei, they would not be able to kill him at any cost. Beckett, you did well. When you return, I will grant you a Countess position to play with. Beckett was startled and then overjoyed. I am willing to go through fire and water for you. My Lord Marquis, I will personally intervene in this matter. I will sign the order shortly, authorizing you to mobilize all resources and forces of the Rabbit family deployed at Wanbei. Understood. Beckett waited quietly for further instructions. His state of mind had already changed. This Loney could be won over. But my Lord Marquis, if he leaks information to Wanbei, Eisen Marquis replied calmly, from what you say, he won't willingly give up his current power and status. As long as he has greed, he won't dare to, and will even act as if nothing has happened. Beckett, don't worry. Trust me. With me here, we won't lose. Beckett nodded firmly. I will follow your lead. My Lord Marquis, such an important asset, Wanbei would surely treasure it, protecting it layer by layer. If we directly attempt to seize it, not to mention the success rate, it would undoubtedly trigger a full-scale conflict with enormous costs, and might even alert the upper echelons of the Empire, allowing the technology to fall into the hands of others. The first thing I want you to do is to win over this Longmi, and you must succeed, without fail. If it really doesn't work, just give him a title like Count to play with. I have quite a few territories, so I believe he won't refuse. However, this person is a bit of a waste, and I hope to hear good news. Beckett confidently said, don't worry, my Lord Marquis. I can handle this person without needing a title. It's fine. Feel free to negotiate. The Marquis replied nonchalantly, his long fingers pinching his chin as he pondered slowly. Beckett silently added another piece of amethyst, fearing it wouldn't be enough, and directly brought up a chest from beneath his feet. Upon opening it, rows of amethysts sparkled inside. He had long been prepared. At that moment, Marquis Eisen spoke again. For the second matter, I will start with the 5 rights ceremony. I will personally smooth out the connections with Kolaisai and find a way to obtain the jump path and approximate window time for the transport ship of Zhuangbai's currency. At the same time, I will instruct people to sell off several futures of rare minerals that Zhuangbai specializes in, creating a panic in prices and hitting their short-term cash flow. On the eve of the arrival of the transport ship at Zhuangbai, I will send you 3 descent and space interception devices. At that time, destroy this transport ship and cut off their taxes. Beckett felt a chill in his heart. If the transport ship were destroyed, there would undoubtedly be some unrest within Zhuangbai. Krun would likely suppress it, but that's fine. You can have Loney create some chaos to see if you can get rid of Parker's first heir. If you can't, that's okay, it won't affect things. As long as there are disagreements in the Senate, that's good enough. Understood. For the third matter, I've heard that Senator Jonas has recently been causing trouble for Zhuangbai. Find a way to investigate the reason. Beckett was taken aback and immediately responded, My Lord Marquis, no need to trouble yourself. I have already accessed Rachel's memory fragments. And after analysis, it seems that 6 months ago, when Senator Jonas just took over the Silverlight affairs, he made some kind of agreement with the Zhuangbai family to attack the Silverlight family's ignition ship, seizing about 10 billion in currency. Oh, Jonas and Zhuangbai have quite some guts, daring to provoke the pioneers. Impressive, Marquis Singer chuckled, clearly aware of more insider information. Beckett continued. Now the currency has fallen into the hands of Rachel's daughter, Fengling. It seems there was a small-scale battle where someone jumped a Silverwing Thunderstorm-class assault battleship, which was designed and destroyed by Parker. Silverwing. So that money hasn't fallen into Zhuangbai's hands yet? Yes, my Lord Marquis. That is a bit troublesome. If the money hasn't fallen into their hands, there's no evidence, and this information isn't very valuable. I guess we still need to act on Silverwing. But my Lord Marquis, that Silverwing, Beckett was startled. Shoo. Marquis Eisen signaled him to be quiet. If you don't say it, I won't say it. Who else would know? Perhaps this Fengling has already contacted Silverwing. If the sky falls, there will naturally be someone tall to hold it up. Moreover, as far as I know, Silverwing's main force is not in the 63rd star zone. Now, the more we stir up Zhuangbai, the more chaotic it gets, the lower our costs will be. Beckett nodded thoughtfully. Marquis Eisen quickly made arrangements. For that third matter, I will give you a contact for Silverwing. Find a way to have them eliminate Zhuangbai's first heir. Beckett's slight tremor was nearly imperceptible. This matter carries significant risk, my Lord Beckett. You should be aware of that. Fully understood, my lord. Beckett's expression grew solemn. It seems the Marquis has decided to completely violate the code of conduct for the nobility of the Empire by assassinating the heir, which is a way of playing that disrupts the rules of the game. Even His Majesty the Emperor and the Grand Duke would not act in such a manner. Otherwise, today you kill my descendants, tomorrow I kill yours. How would the Empire function? No one can bear such consequences. This is no less significant than the appearance of those from the Galactic Federation. Right. Almost forgot. Seeing the Marquis nodding to end the communication, Beckett quickly asked, My lord, I have committed your deployment to memory and will do my utmost to accomplish it. But what about the Galactic Federation? How should we arrange it? Should I hand it over? Marquis Eisen paused slightly. He only has one starship, right? Yes. With a speed of only 120 FF? It shouldn't differ much. 120 FF is already beyond the norm. Does he have any jump drive or capability? He probably doesn't. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so low-key and collaborating with Wanbei. Beckett affirmed. Wanbei is weak and has a thin foundation. They naturally thought of cooperating to fill this gap, and given time, they could achieve great things, but unfortunately, they missed the opportunity. Marquis Eisen nodded in agreement, and then spoke slowly, word by word. And I, Rabbit Eisen, hereditary Marquis of the Empire, with an 8,000-year legacy. Fully staffed with 49 and 14 autonomous territories. Cooperation? A joke. Beckett bowed deeply, understanding the Marquis's intent. Lord Beckett, that said, plans often fail to keep up with changes. No one can predict the future, and everything must be approached with utmost caution. Grasp the power I have given you. What you are stirring now is not only the foundation of Wanbei and the people behind him, but also the future of Rabbit. Do not let me down. I will not fail in my mission. Chapter 154, The Imposter Astro-class Frigate, Confinement Area Corridor. Soft light spilled over the metallic walls as Lu Ling passed through the automatically sliding doors. After transferring command of the Cycler class and the first round of or unloading tasks to Christine, he returned to this familiar area. Mining is tedious and boring. Idling is more comfortable, but fortunately, he summoned a talent. He had considered getting a mech to play with, but Lien was only a novice. Knowing how to use it and teaching it are two different things. Captain. Lien, sitting on the sofa, immediately stood up, her combat suit lining soaked with sweat. How is it? Have you secured it? Almost. Lien assured with determination. Her psychological defenses were weakening. Give me a bit more time, and I will definitely extract all the intelligence. Lu Ling waved his hand, not holding much hope. He just asked casually. After all, there was a significant genetic disparity. And suddenly, he scrutinized Lien closely. This made her somewhat uncomfortable, her ears gradually turning red. Captain, you and I here. She instinctively closed her legs, fingers intertwining. TSK. Lu Ling stroked his chin. If your genetic levels were equally strong, could you secure it? Lien froze, her back straightening. Yes. Very good. Lu Ling nodded slightly, asking if she had found out about the person behind her. Lien hesitated, as if organizing her words. It was the Blood Alliance. She had made a deal with Rosaniella. But Rosaniella was now arrested by a certain authority and could not be contacted. What was the deal? It was about the distribution of the Silverlight inheritance. The people behind the Blood Alliance might come to collect the money. So, it seems that Rosaniella has quite a background. Lu Ling remembered that the Blood Alliance had lured a battleship similar to a certain advanced stealth vessel, but for some reason, it merely watched the situation unfold despite having a significant advantage, ultimately being captured and sunk by Parker. At this moment, Lien added, Feng Ling said that according to their agreement, there would be an operation tomorrow. She had gathered some former members of Yelena in advance to prepare for the rescue of Yelena and Rosaniella. They are locked up together? Yes. Lu Ling understood. It was indeed a trap set by Parker. Was he also looking for the people behind the Blood Alliance? In a satellite prison known as Ice Prison, viewed from orbit, it appeared as a blue and white planet, with enormous polar ice caps resembling two crowns forged of ice, covering nearly 2/3 of the planet's surface, reflecting a cold sheen under the distant star's light. Only near the equator could one see a discontinuous scar of brown, green, and white, the narrow strip where life barely existed. Despite having an atmosphere primarily composed of nitrogen and oxygen and seasonal changes, the global average temperature remained below freezing for extended periods, locking most of the surface in permafrost and ice caps several kilometers thick. This harsh natural environment formed the first natural barrier. In its near-Earth orbit, a small outpost of the naval forces silently floated, serving as a watchful guardian. Here, 8 warships and numerous fixed defense installations created the second, and most formidable, steel defense line of the prison. This was the only and largest penal institution in the autonomous region, Ice Prison. It housed not only ordinary criminals, but primarily served to imprison political prisoners, rebels, dangerous space pirate leaders, and various individuals who knew too many secrets. The number of registered prisoners was believed to exceed 10 million. One could say that Ice Prison held all the evils under the order of this starry sky. At the edge of the 7th mining area, the abandoned exploration outpost CO06 lay buried in ice and snow. The biting cold wind howled across the permafrost-covered wasteland like millions of ice blades, stirring up a blizzard with low visibility. The abandoned outpost was half buried in snow, its rusted metal shell long since covered with dark, solid ice. Just then, a white assault boat flew in low from the distance, approaching the outpost entrance and slowly descending before finally landing. The Blood Shark and Ghost Crocodile were the first to leap out of the hatch, followed by their trusted subordinates, all clad in second-level nano battle armor, while Ken and his crew remained on the assault boat, ready to assist at any moment. Damn, it's cold, one of them exclaimed. Turn on the heating in the armor. This damn place. Even a drop of urine would freeze into an icicle to be used as a weapon. Hurry up, the captain is still waiting. The moment they jumped down, a wave of extreme cold surged in, making him shiver and curse under his breath. Transitioning from the warmth of Carthage to this frozen hell was indeed hard to adapt to. A calm, deep voice came through the communication channel, indicating that multiple life signals had been detected inside. Are you ready to send the identification signal, as per the agreed frequency? Upon hearing this, he stopped shivering. Go ahead. Anytime. The voice sent a brief pulse signal, an emergency contact code provided by a trusted associate that only the inner circle would know. After a moment of silence deep within the outpost, a response signal came back, frequency matching. With a heavy, rusty thud, the airlock door creaked open just enough for several people to squeeze through. He was the first to slip inside, followed closely by others. Once all 20-plus members were through, the door sealed shut again. Inside, it was dark and deep, with no lights, though occasional glimpses of abandoned facilities could be seen. About 4 minutes later, a bright light suddenly illuminated the entire area. 2 figures emerged from the shadows. The one on the left was exceptionally tall and robust, his battle armor stained with grime and blood, holding a large-caliber magnetic rail rifle. This was Black Tooth, a trusted aide of Yelena. Behind him were several fierce-looking elite members of the Black Sails, all bearing the look of desperate outlaws, their eyes sharp with wariness and suspicion. In stark contrast, the person on the right was lean and agile, clad in dark gray battle armor, relaxed in posture, but with every subtle muscle line indicating precision and control. She was the trusted aide of Rosanella, codenamed Firefly. Firefly brought very few people, who silently dispersed into the shadows, holding their weapons in a professional and unified manner, clearly trained under stricter standards. He squinted. Firefly was actually wearing Tier 3 nano armor. Where's Fengling? Blacktooth's voice was gruff, and he intentionally didn't lower his rifle completely, counting the number of people present. Is this all there is? The harsh spotlight made him squint, but instead of retreating, he stepped forward a couple of paces. Blacktooth. Huh, a stray dog, and you dare to call our boss by name? His voice echoed loudly in the enclosed space. Few people? We came through the outer defense of Zhuangbai, and not a single one is missing. He extended a thick finger, pointing at Blacktooth's still-raised magnetic rail rifle. Put down your junk, or do you believe I will kill you right now? And don't even think about getting the map. As his words fell, his companions stepped forward, raising their weapons. The Black Sails members did the same, and the atmosphere turned tense. Blacktooth was momentarily stunned by the threat. He never expected to be cornered like this. The muscles on his face twitched, and a flicker of hesitation crossed his fierce gaze. Damn it, you sure have a sharp tongue, Blacktooth grumbled, trying to back down. At this moment, Roshanira's confidant, Lu Ying, spoke up. Where's the map? Her voice was calm and direct, interrupting the brief tension and bringing the focus back to the critical issue. The arrogance on Bloodshark's face showed no signs of fading. Instead, he broke into a mocking smile that exuded dominance. The map, Lu Ying, right? You're just a lost dog too. Is this all the Blood Alliance could send you? I guess you've been kicked out of the Alliance, haven't you? He shook his thick fingers as if scolding a child who didn't understand the situation. And it seems you've misunderstood something. This thing is not just some travel guide you can look at casually. If you want to save your boss, you have to listen to me. Why should we? Heya immediately growled angrily, the gun he had just lowered starting to rise again. Without the map, how do we know you're not leading us to our doom? Bloodshark shrugged nonchalantly. Well, your boss is the one in prison, not mine. Heya was rendered speechless, his face turning pale, but he couldn't refute it. Lu Ying remained silent, her gaze trying to penetrate Bloodshark's mask to see his true intentions. After a brief, suffocating standoff, seeing that Bloodshark was about to withdraw, she finally looked away and said, Fine, you lead the way. She chose a temporary compromise. Seeing this, Heya could only spit in frustration and glare fiercely at Bloodshark, as if to concede. Humph, I'll create a secret channel. Bloodshark pointed to the signal relay operator in the team. Protect him well. Are you okay? Heya, you go ahead. Lu Ying, follow behind. We'll cover you and guide you through the channel. You. Heya was about to explode again. What about me? If you think you're capable, go ahead. Bloodshark responded recklessly. Enough. Heya. Lu Ying interjected. Rescuing our leader is the most important thing. Chapter 155. The Prison Breaker at this moment. 15 kilometers underground from Bloodshark and the others. In the ice prison, level 420, ice cell. The layout was circular, with a hollow center, featuring only an elevator platform for the guards. The ice prison had 500 levels, extending 18 kilometers underground. The higher the level, the more distinguished the prisoners' identities. Level 420 was a special tier for high-ranking pirates, such as leaders of major pirate groups, notorious lone pirate captains, legendary masters of plunder, and pirate kings who held vast secret treasures or critical interstellar route information. Zhuangbai once had a pirate king, but he was imprisoned on level 498, which was over 200 years ago. Compared to the usual extreme cold in other areas of the ice prison, the temperature on level 420 was terrifyingly maintained near absolute zero. With the genes of these pirates, they could naturally endure such frigid conditions, but that only meant endurance. It did not imply that it was painless. It was a suffocating and powerless feeling, as if life was being slowly extinguished. In addition, the acoustic environment of each ice cell was strictly controlled. All background noise was absorbed, achieving a state of near absolute silence. Any sound, such as a heartbeat, breathing, or teeth chattering, would be infinitely amplified, becoming a continuous torment to the prisoner's nerves. Communication between prisoners is strictly prohibited, yet they can see each other's presence within their line of sight. The ice cages are completely soundproof and cut off from signals. Yelena is imprisoned in such an ice cage. She resembles a war goddess nailed to a cross in the void, with an invisible force field binding her limbs and torso, her golden hair gently floating in the weightless environment. She wears a specially designed silver restraint suit that maintains the bare minimum of life signs. Each day, guards operate drones to inject nutrients. Her once fiercely burning ice blue eyes are now half closed, slowly being consumed by the extreme cold. She can see the blurred figures of other prisoners in surrounding ice cages, some of whom she can even recognize as former rivals or allies from various star regions. But here, they are merely specimens in the collection of a certain entity. At that moment, the central elevator door suddenly opened, the faint creak echoing like thunder in the silent frozen abyss. Two guards appeared on the narrow corridor connecting to the central elevator platform, their gray-white heavy power armor starkly contrasting with the surrounding deep blue, the emblem of their organization appearing particularly cold under the faint glow from the ice cages. Instead of performing routine maintenance or injections with drones as usual, the guards walked straight toward the specific targets, Yelena and Rosanira, within the floating array of ice cages. The invisible force field binding them weakened slightly, allowing their cages to slowly and controlledly drift toward the corridor. The bottom of the ice cages connected with the corridor, producing a dull metallic sound. Number 7, Number 19, one guard's voice came through the external speaker, muffled and devoid of emotion after filtering through the armor and environment, announcing a routine physical check. Yelena's half-closed eyes suddenly snapped open, while Rosanira remained calm. 2 drones flew out, lifting them up as the elevator door closed, sealing off the suffocating silence and deep blue of the 420th level once again. The elevator began to ascend. The faint operational sound echoed in the confined space, allowing Yelena and Rosanira to clearly feel the extreme cold that constantly consumed life and energy beginning to fade. The frozen blood seemed to start flowing again, and their thoughts became clearer. Although the restraint suit still imposed a strong sense of suppression, the change in the environment itself was a significant and suggestive relief. Yelena greedily breathed in the much warmer air, her ice-blue eyes sharpening in the dim light. Rosanira maintained her surface calm, but her senses had heightened to their peak. She silently calculated the elevator's operational time, acceleration, and approximate depth change, trying to construct a mental map. The elevator continued to rise, as if it aimed to penetrate the heavy rock layers and ice caps of the entire frozen prison. Meanwhile, the jailbreak team was making their way forward with great difficulty. They crawled through the connecting pipes of the outpost, descending deeper step by step, until they reached an extremely narrow entrance that barely allowed one person to pass through. The ground beneath them was a frozen, uneven metallic surface, and sharp ice stalactites occasionally hung from above, resembling suspended swords. "Blacktooth, you go first." A voice echoed in the channel. Blacktooth cursed under his breath, but, eager to rescue his comrades, squeezed himself into the suffocatingly narrow entrance. His bulky frame nearly filled the entire passage, and every step he took was exceptionally challenging, with his heavy armor scraping against the cold, rough metal walls, producing a creaking sound. He focused intently on the ground and surroundings, wary of triggering any deadly traps. One of his subordinates followed closely behind, his nervousness making his movements awkward. The passage floor was covered in a slippery layer of ice, uneven and treacherous. Just as he tried to mimic Blacktooth's steps and stepped onto what seemed like a stable bump. Crack. Not good. That was no bump at all, but a fragile hollow ice shell. With nothing beneath his feet, he lost his balance in an instant and fell forward with a startled cry. That fall was like knocking over the first domino. There was no space to evade in the narrow passage. He crashed heavily into Blacktooth's legs, who was cautiously moving ahead. Damn it. Blacktooth was taken by surprise. The sudden impact disrupted his already precarious balance, causing his massive body to stumble forward uncontrollably. In front of him was a steeply sloped slide, thickly coated with ice. Ugh, Blacktooth roared, trying to brace himself against the wall. But the icy surface was too slippery to gain any traction. He and the fallen subordinate were suddenly sent sliding down like they were thrown into an ice slide, rapidly accelerating. Boss. The people behind had no time to react and couldn't stop the momentum. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of consecutive impacts and cries filled the air. The narrow passage instantaneously transformed into a deadly slide. Blacktooth and several of the pirates behind him were pushed forward by an invisible force, terrified and unable to control their descent, hurtling down at high speed. At the bottom of the passage, there was not a flat exit but a near 90-degree turn. Stop! Stop! Damn it, stop! Blacktooth strained to hold on with his hands and feet, but the shouts and vibrations from behind sent chills down his spine, forcing him to leap into the turn. Then, the sound of heavy objects hitting the ground echoed. A chilling, dull thud and the unmistakable sound of bones breaking seemed to explode simultaneously. Thud. 4 or 5 of Blacktooth's subordinates suddenly spat blood, staining their helmets. They didn't have nano armor, only the cheapest mechanical exoskeletons, which couldn't cushion such a powerful impact. In just 2 or 3 seconds, the right angle was piled high with bodies and shattered armor. Bloodshark. Blacktooth roared. The last person, Lu Ying, and her companion reacted quickly. At the moment of the chain collision, they forced themselves backward, pressing tightly against the wall of the passage, narrowly avoiding being caught up in the disaster. However, they were still shocked by the sudden and horrific scene before them. Bloodshark and his team happened to be on a small platform in the middle of the passage, seemingly having anticipated the situation and avoided the impact route. They looked coldly at the chaos below, showing no intention of helping. Lu Ying quickly calmed down, her sharp gaze sweeping over the accident scene and then over the Bloodshark team, who were observing from a safe distance. This incident was too coincidental, as if it were a meticulously planned elimination. Hey, you missed the mark. Look at you, what can you do? Bloodshark's voice held no disguise of mockery as he looked at Lu Ying. You go first. As he spoke, Bloodshark's hand brushed over the icy surface. And with a light click, a camouflage panel that blended seamlessly with the surrounding environment and was covered in thick ice was easily pushed aside, revealing a hidden, narrow passageway that was clearly artificially carved. The inner walls were made of relatively neat alloy, starkly different from the rough ice cave outside. Bloodshark, you better know what you're doing, Lu Ying warned. What am I doing? Bloodshark shrugged, leading the way. I'm here to save your boss. Who knew that idiot Blacktooth would act so recklessly, stepping on a mine and blaming me? If you want to leave, go. If not, just wait here for the Ice Claw to come collect the bodies. Before he finished speaking, a faint buzzing of drones could be heard from the distance of the passage, seemingly heading in their direction. Lu Ying took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the impulse to aim her gun at Bloodshark. Turning against him now would mean total annihilation. We're leaving. She gestured to her two subordinates, her voice returning to its cold steadiness. She bent down first and unhesitatingly crawled into the newly revealed passage. Her two subordinates followed closely, their wary eyes scanning Bloodshark and the others, filled with distrust. Watching Lu Ying's back, Bloodshark's lips curled into a cold smirk of triumph. Indeed, he had no desire to act anymore. Blacktooth, stop dawdling, keep up. Hearing the buzzing of the drone, Blacktooth quickly climbed up step by step. Their gazes met silently through their visors, and ultimately, he led a group of over 10 people into the passage. The hidden passage was even narrower and more oppressive inside than outside, but it seemed to have indeed avoided the most dangerous natural trap areas. However, Lu Ying did not dare to relax at all. Her senses were heightened to the extreme, and she took each step with extraordinary caution, carefully checking every inch of the alloy plates beneath her feet and every seam above her head. Suddenly, Lu Ying, who was at the front, abruptly stopped and raised her fist to signal for them to halt. There was an energy reading ahead, very faint, like a dormant sensor. It's there, she whispered, her gaze fixed on an inconspicuous bump at the top of the passage that almost blended into the shadows. Bloodshark's voice came through the channel, tinged with impatience. Go around it, or trigger it. This low-level sensor, if triggered, will only attract 1 or 2 ice claws at most. It's better than getting stuck here. Hurry up and crawl. The gaze of Lu Ying sharpened. The suggestion from Bloodshark was crude and reckless, completely disregarding the potential chain reactions. She carefully observed the sensor and glanced at the surrounding environment. It couldn't be triggered. She calmly assessed that its connection cables led into the main wall panel, possibly linked to a larger defense system. The third panel on the side wall showed signs of cutting, likely a maintenance access point, suggesting a way to go around from behind. Without waiting for Bloodshark's rebuttal, she took action, using precise force to pry open the slightly loose panel. Behind it was indeed an extremely narrow maintenance passage filled with cables. This way, she said, diving in first. Bloodshark chuckled behind her, somewhat surprised by Lu Ying's caution and sharpness. However, he didn't stop her, merely signaling his subordinates to follow. After crawling for over 10 minutes, they finally reached the end of the passage. Suddenly, Lu Ying's pupils constricted. Ahead, a white claw-like drone slowly descended, its multiple electromagnetic cannons and mini-freeze ray launchers instantly locking onto the targets huddled in the passage. Protect the leader. One of the Blood Alliance warriors beside Lu Ying let out a desperate roar, suddenly leaping up from a prone position to shield her with his body, while wildly firing his pulse rifle at the drone. To everyone's surprise, the drone deftly evaded all of his shots. The electromagnetic projectiles from the drone instantly tore through his armor and body, blood splattering everywhere, yet he held his ground against the immense impact, using his battered body to buy Lu Ying half a second. Another Blood Alliance warrior, even more frantic, directly crawled towards the drone, only to be shot into a sieve from several dozen meters away, ultimately detonating all the offensive grenades on him. Boom! A fiery explosion erupted. The intense blast reverberated in the narrow space, obliterating the drone but also instantly consuming him and another nearby Blood Alliance member. Everyone pressed themselves tightly to the ground as Bloodshark squinted his eyes. The self-sacrificial cover provided by Lu Ying's subordinates completely exceeded his expectations. These individuals could not possibly be mere pirates of the Blood Alliance. They were warriors ready to die. No wonder the captain wanted to take extra time to deal with these people, and if necessary, call for reinforcements. Not just him, even Blacktooth was stunned, feeling tense. Had he been in front, he believed these people wouldn't act like the Blood Alliance. If anyone was to die, it would have been him. After Lu Ying suffered the loss of 3 members, the passage fell silent. The group crawled out of the bloody, smoke-filled maintenance tunnel into a relatively spacious junction platform filled with thick pipes and valves. One side of the platform led to a bottomless vertical shaft, with cold winds rushing up from below, emitting a wailing sound. The opposite side was a massive, frost-covered alloy wall, embedded with complex pipe interfaces and maintenance markings. This was yet another dead end. The suppressed rage and near-breaking despair reached their peak on this icy platform. Bloodshark. Blacktooth suddenly broke free from his subordinate support, relying on his remaining strength to stagger forward. His bloodshot eyes fixed fiercely on Bloodshark, and beneath the damaged mask, a fierce expression emerged. You bastard. That path is a dead end. You knew all along. You deliberately sent my men to their deaths. His hoarse roar echoed across the empty platform, filled with endless hatred. In the distance, the buzzing of numerous ice claw drones could be heard. Lu Ying remained silent, but quietly shifted half a step, forming a vague angle with Blacktooth. Although the muzzle of her pulse pistol hung low, her finger was already on the trigger guard. Bloodshark's team instantly tensed up, and Ghost Crocodile and his subordinates immediately raised their weapons, aiming at Blacktooth and Lu Ying. The atmosphere on the platform tightened instantly, poised for confrontation. Facing the two's challenge, Bloodshark merely sneered, showing no sign of panic on his face, but rather a mocking superiority. You think you can threaten me? Blacktooth, you're the one who's foolish. Rushing your men into a trap. Who can you blame? He spread his hands, his tone frivolous. Lu Ying, do you also want to fight me? With your ragtag bunch? He took 2 steps forward, almost invading Blacktooth's personal space, ignoring the fury in his eyes. Don't forget, without me leading the way, you wouldn't even reach this cursed place. Without me, you'd have died up there long ago. Now you want to turn against me? Fine. He abruptly raised his hand, pointing to the bottomless edge of the platform. If you have the guts, find your own way to save your leader. With that, he leaped over the railing and pulled out a grappling hook to jump down. Both Blacktooth and Lu Ying were taken aback, thinking he was trying to escape. However, Bloodshark swung with agility like a monkey, effortlessly flipping onto a small platform hidden beneath the supply station. The platform was positioned cleverly, completely out of sight from the main platform above, let alone accessible normally. It was about the size of an ordinary balcony. Bloodshark's voice came through the channel. If you want to save your leader, then just obey. One by one, come in. This time, he directly twisted open the access door, pausing momentarily as it opened. Damn, I forgot to act discreetly. Fortunately, in the blind spot, Bloodshark quickly inserted an electromagnetic card, successfully disabling the access system. Blacktooth clenched his fists tightly, his chest heaving violently, but ultimately could only let out a low growl filled with extreme unwillingness and humiliation. Lu Ying silently put away her gun, her expression icy cold beneath the mask. Bloodshark had once again proven who the real leader was in the most arrogant and humiliating way, effortlessly neutralizing their combined threat. As the drone swarm approached, everyone had no choice but to hurriedly follow Bloodshark's lead. In the chaos, no one noticed the deliberately damaged traces that could only be discovered upon closer inspection. Chapter 156. The fugitive. The scene behind the door surprised everyone. There were no strict guards or sturdy barriers. Only a brightly lit, exceptionally clean and spacious short corridor, with another automatic sliding door marked with medical symbols at the end. Keep up. Don't fall behind. Bloodshark roared, charging in first, moving as swiftly as a cheetah, as if he was intimately familiar with the place. Haya and Lu Ying suppressed their surprise and immediately followed closely behind. The Ghost Crocodile squad coordinated to cover the rear. They passed through a short corridor, and the automatic sliding door ahead sensed their approach, sliding open to the sides. Before them was an unexpectedly spacious circular hall. This was one of the core medical stations on the second level of the ice prison. The cold white shadowless lights illuminated the entire space as if it were daylight. Spotless. The surrounding walls were composed of curved panels integrated with rows of precision medical pods and life support systems, with countless indicator lights and data streams flickering silently. Who is it? The medical officer at the station exclaimed, instinctively shrinking beneath the control console. His movements so standard it was as if he had practiced it countless times. In response to him was the storm of fear, anger, and the madness of desperation that the pirates had built up along the way. Damn you, Zhuangbai scum. Save the boss. Let us kill them. Haya was the first to roar and opened fire, shattering every instrument and piece of glass he could see. He didn't care about the target. It was purely an outpouring of rage and chaos. At that very moment of turmoil, the opposing airtight gate on the other side of the medical station opened, and 2 prison guards in gray-white power armor were escorting 2 prisoners. To their shock, those 2 were Yelena and Rosanira. What a coincidence. So damn coincidental. Just like a meticulously staged drama, the curtain rose at the precise moment the protagonists were needed. Haya. Yelena shouted. Boss. Haya instantly spotted Yelena, his eyes turning red. Excitement and joy overwhelming all doubt. Lu Ying was also stunned. However, before she could think further, the 2 guards suddenly began to counterattack. Enemy attack. Repeat. Someone is breaking out of prison. Requesting orbital strike. Haya charged forward. Stop them. After killing several pirates, the 2 guards seemed overwhelmed and retreated outside the door to wait for backup. Quick. Get them. Bloodshark roared through the smoke. or we one team make it out. At Bloodshark's command, everyone dared not delay. Lu Ying leaped, showcasing her incredible strength, directly throwing a dart that shot down 2 drones, causing Yelena and Rosanira to fall to the ground. Seeing that they had caught the people, Bloodshark shouted again, "Go! Their reinforcements are coming." His tone was urgent, captivating everyone's attention. At this critical moment, everyone couldn't worry about anything else and rushed out. In the next moment, the top gate swung wide open, and countless prison guards and ice claw drones surged in, engaging in fierce gunfire and pursuit. At the small balcony entrance, an assault boat flew in, its rear door wide open. Bloodshark sprinted ahead, a cold smile on his lips, his voice echoing through the channel, yet filled with panic. "It's too late. Their fighters are already on the way." Saying this, he leaped into the assault boat, followed closely by the ghost crocodile squad. "Hurry up. You all go. Hiya." Running at the back, roared as he injected a vial of medicine, forcefully throwing the extremely weakened Yelena several meters, accurately landing her inside the assault boat. This stunned Bloodshark and Ghost Crocodile. "Aren't we buddies?" The swarm erupted with unimaginable speed, carrying Rosanira nearly 100 meters in a second as they leaped into the assault vessel. "Hurry, hurry." The pilot immediately began to ascend, and the hatch slowly closed. Through the gap, the survivors watched their companions, who had knelt down in surrender, becoming increasingly distant, silent, and motionless. What awaited them was an endless, freezing hell. However, this thrilling escape was far from over, as several fighter jets and even armored troops appeared, relentlessly pursuing them, leading to a chase. Inside the medical station, the pirates led by Blacktooth squatted down with their hands on their heads, having already succumbed to their fate. The medical officer awkwardly crawled out from the control console, cursing as he approached Blacktooth and delivered a hefty slap. "Smug little brat, huh?" With that, another slap followed. "You think you're so clever, huh?" Slap. "You think you can mess with me?" Slap. "Can't you just talk nicely?" Slap. "Do you even know who my brother is?" This medical officer was clearly a genetic optimist and not of low rank. After a series of hits, Blacktooth's face swelled, and he whimpered, unable to hear the words clearly. The prison guard captain approached, removing his helmet. "Any casualties?" "How could there be?" The medical officer waved his hand, casually pulling out a pack of cigarettes and scattering them around, his demeanor far from that of a serious medical officer. He took a deep drag from his cigarette. "Damn it, you've wrecked half of my medical station. I'll report it for reimbursement later." The guard captain shrugged, lighting up with his subordinates. "Make sure to include my share too." "What are you reporting?" The medical officer flicked ash onto Blacktooth's face. The guard captain pointed to the first 2 guards, whose powered armor had slight dents. Pirates raided the prison, firing fiercely, and ruined 2 sets of powered armor. He then looked at Blacktooth. "Isn't that right?" Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Blacktooth nodded, accepting the blame. "Why not just report 10 sets as ruined?" The medical officer shot a sideways glance, exhaling a smoke ring. "The cost of these 2 sets isn't even enough for our vacation." "Good point." The guard captain grabbed Blacktooth by the hair, forcing him to look up, grinning maliciously. "Tell me, did you destroy my 10 sets of powered armor? And my 30 ice claw drones?" Blacktooth swallowed hard, despairingly closing his eyes. "Yes, you've got some nerve. That's a serious crime." Blacktooth sighed, already aware of the fate that awaited him. However, the next moment, the words from the medical officer and the guard captain sent chills down his spine, stiffening his neck as he gazed towards the exit corridor. What was the name of the guy leading the charge? "I think it was Bloodshark, right? The warden told me to give him the map and security codes, and I even pointed the way for him. This operative code does sound quite pirate-like. They played their parts well. Those guys didn't fire a single shot from start to finish. Were my 2 brothers not convincing enough? Ha ha ha. Once we're on leave, I'll treat everyone when we get back to Carthage. Let us have a big feast at Tideflow Island." The prison warden grinned and waved his hand to the subordinates behind him. "Take him down. Interrogate him thoroughly. Make sure he clearly explains how he planned this heinous prison break, how he destroyed 10 sets of powered armor, 30 ice claw drones, and half an entire medical station. There are deposits, right? Be honest, and you'll suffer less." The medical officer took one last drag of his cigarette, tossed the butt on the ground, and extinguished it with his foot. He then called up a holographic screen and dialed a communication. "Hello, logistics department? Send someone over to assess the losses. You wouldn't believe it. These pirates are getting more and more arrogant, daring to come and break into the prison. Fortunately, under my brother's brave command, all the criminals have been captured. Ha ha ha, it's quite the achievement. When we get back to Carthage, I'll buy you a drink." Blacktooth was being dragged along, the wardens and medical officers' reckless banter and cold assessment orders echoing in his ears. He finally understood that the so-called prison break and sacrifice were nothing but a complete joke from beginning to end. Chapter 157 Reunion. The assault boat was narrow and dimly lit, originally designed to accommodate 30 people, but was now crammed with over 50. As for the pursuing prison aircraft and iron cavalry, they hung back at a distance, while only the cockpit remained calm, transmitting false information and occasionally executing tricky maneuvers, triggering everyone's nerves. As the assault boat ascended, the gravity system in the cabin began to activate, and everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. Had they escaped? Yelena and Rosanna sat in their seats. One looked pale and panicked, while the other was pale but calm. Lu Ying was whispering to Rosanna. And then the woman with emerald green eyes looked at Blood Shark and then at Ghost Crocodile, her voice laced with undisguised skepticism. Where's Feng Ling? Blood Shark lazily raised his eyes, a hint of a cold smile at the corner of his mouth. What's the hurry? We'll be reunited soon. A slight tremor came as the assault boat passed through the energy barrier of the Astro class and landed steadily on the cold hangar deck. The cabin door hissed open, and fresh air rushed in. Here we are, Blood Shark urged impatiently. The outermost pirate jumped off the landing craft, followed closely by Yelena. The impact from Blacktooth's throw made her insides ache. She took a deep breath, her ice-blue eyes quickly scanning her surroundings, her weary face reflecting a dazed relief and a hint of instinctive vigilance. This place was too quiet. No, it was too clean. There was none of the mixed metallic smell of oil typical of a pirate ship. Where was this place? She murmured. Rosanna stepped out steadily under Lu Ying's protection. Although her face was slightly pale, she appeared more composed than Yelena, her emerald green pupils instantly capturing the anomalies. The material and craftsmanship of the hangar's interior walls were unlike anything they had ever seen. Several uniformly maintained assault boats were docked in the distance, alongside what appeared to be launchers for drones. There was no smell of gunpowder in the air, only the cold, recycled air. Just then, a startled voice broke the silence. Who are you? As the voice fell, everyone's gaze focused on the 20 dark golden figures on the high platform. Silent yet oppressive. It's a trap. Lu Ying's pupils suddenly contracted, and she turned sharply to look at Blood Shark. Blood Shark grinned and said, You want to see Feng Ling? She's right here. You can talk to her for a while. Seeking death. Lu Ying responded coldly. Almost at the same instant she spoke, a dark golden shadow flickered by like a wraith, and a heavy voice exploded in everyone's ears. The dark crow moved. Its speed exceeded everyone's ability to capture visually. Lu Ying felt an irresistible, terrifying force suddenly grip her throat, lifting her entirely off the ground. Cold mechanical fingers clamped down like iron pincers, instantly depriving her of breath and the ability to speak, as powerful pressure constricted her carotid artery, causing her vision to darken. Ugh! Lu Ying's feet left the ground, and she began to struggle and counterattack, trying to pry open those iron-like fingers, but to no avail. The dark crow held her up, its palms slowly tightening, the visor coldly observing her struggling, painful expression, as if examining a dying insect. Lu Ying! Rosanna shouted in alarm. Let her go? Yelena yelled angrily upon seeing this, instinctively wanting to step forward, but the long-term cold imprisonment and intense pain caused her to collapse to the ground. At that moment, a voice came through. Dark Crow. That's enough. Lu Ying stepped forward slowly. The dark crow instantly released its grip as if it had received a command. Lu Ying collapsed to the ground, coughing violently, looking at the dark crow with terror in her eyes. She glanced at those dark golden power armors, her throat rolling. With her D-combat genes, she had no power to resist at all. Captain, Blood Shark, Ghost Crocodile, and others immediately saluted. It's you? Yelena and Rosanna recognized him simultaneously. The one who silently stood behind Feng Ling during the negotiations at Blackwater Bay. Captain, Yelena found it hard to believe. Where's Feng Ling? Rosanna asked. Fixing her gaze on Lu Ling smiled slightly. You miss her that much? I'll take you to see her. At the same time, with a light tremor, the Astro-class ship exited the jump and returned to the collection station. At this moment, the Death Vortex lay quietly docked, with numerous Zhuangbai engineering machines at work. Yelena and Rosanna stay. Everyone else take away, Lu Ling ordered. Understood. Blood Shark complied, putting magnetic shackles on everyone, escorting them onto the assault boat to leave. Many people were locked up in the Death Vortex, but fortunately, the ship was large enough to accommodate more. Yelena and Rosanna exchanged glances, a chill spreading in their hearts. They were once again hoisted by 2 detention drones, falling behind Lu Ling, until they reached the confinement room. Captain, Lien stood at the door, saluted, and followed Lu Ling inside. All locked up together? Locked. Lien immediately opened the cage, and the drones released the 2 after delivering them inside. Feng Ling was leaning against the cold wall, looking up upon hearing the sound. You're here? Feng Ling. The 2 were taken aback, not expecting to see her in this place, let alone as fellow prisoners. Did your subordinates rebel? Yelena's habitual sarcasm attempted to regain a sense of control. You can't either. Wait until I return to the Black Sail and gather the crew to make the decisions for you. Her tone still carried the inherent arrogance of the Black Sail princess, as if the current predicament was merely a temporary setback. Feng Ling had yet to speak, but Rosanna beside her gently shook her head. The Black Sail? Huh, Yelena, wake up. The Black Sail is gone. What? Impossible. Yelena turned sharply to glare at Rosanira. My father is in charge. Those old fools may have their own agendas. But no one dares to truly rebel. The foundation of the Black Sail cannot be easily shaken. She refused to believe it. The Black Sail was the source of her power, a symbol of her identity, her pride in its entirety. Fengling scoffed. Your father? Probably still in the ice prison. Judging by your complexion, just out of the ice prison? Yelena's pupils constricted. What do you mean? What I mean is, your reliance, the Black Sail pirates, has been completely destroyed, Rosanira interjected. Your father was thrown into the ice prison at the same time as I was. There are only 2 cells between you. Yelena's face gradually turned pale. No, it's impossible. She stumbled back, leaning against the cold wall, her face as white as paper. The earlier arrogance and anger dissipated like a punctured balloon, leaving behind a vast emptiness and confusion. She was no longer the lofty princess. She had lost her fleet. Her influence, her father, everything had vanished. Now, she was just a homeless, reliant prisoner and escapee. Rosanira quietly watched Yelena's breakdown, her expression still calm. But a flicker of complex emotions passed through her green eyes. Once upon a time, they had been so magnificent in Blackwater Bay. She turned to Fengling. Her gaze sharp. And you? You betrayed me too, didn't you? Fengling met her gaze, silent for a moment, then slowly replied. You have no idea how terrifying he is. Just give up. At that moment, the dark glass suddenly became transparent, and everyone saw the man with a gradually concealed edge in his features. Standing with his hands clasped behind his back, calmly observing the 3 in the cell. His gaze finally landed on Rosanira, and his voice came through the speaker, steady yet carrying an invisible pressure. Rosanira, I heard from Fengling that you are her backup plan? Rosanira's eyes flickered, but she only replied in Donduv, I don't know what you're talking about. Lu Ling was unfazed by her denial and continued, then, let me ask another question. That battleship induced by your blood alliance on the day at Blackwater Bay was quite interesting. That's not something pirates should have. Where did it come from? Induced? Rosanira was taken aback. Although she didn't understand the meaning of the term, it didn't prevent her from grasping Lu Ling's intent. Did Fengling trade 10 billion with you for your people to take action? 10 billion? Star coins? Rosanira was somewhat confused. Lu Ling smiled knowingly. Fengling probably told you it was 5 billion. Rosanira took a deep breath, glanced at Fengling, and said, honestly, I'm used to it. After all, from the very beginning, both Fengling and I had our own hidden agendas. I don't know what you're talking about. Lu Ling quietly looked at her, their gazes meeting through the glass. Then, the hatch opened, and Ola smoothly flew into the room. Fengling instinctively shuddered and leaned towards the dazed Yelena, then looked at Rosanilla with genuine pity in her eyes. Ola retrieved the combat records from the solitary grave base, analyze the energy form of that battleship, and compare its jump characteristics with the Zhuangbai database. Thunderstorm-class assault battleship, based on Zhuangbai database analysis, belongs to the Empire's active assault ship category, equipped with technology similar to hyperspace jump engines. Equipped with 26 dual 1,200mm cannon arrays and 64 large missile silos, the firepower output reaches local standard battleship levels. However, its energy structure shows significant deviations from the Empire's standard models in the database. According to calculations, there is a 9,979 possibility that it bypassed the safety protocols of the hyperspace jump engines, using a forced non-standard energy supply. Combining the public intelligence analysis from Zhuangbai, the technical features highly align with those of the Silver Wing Resistance, and the weapon system frequencies are consistent with the standard configuration of the Silver Wing Resistance. Rosanilla's green eyes narrowed as she looked at Ola, then glanced at the silent Fengling, her expression shifting between dark and light. So, you are backed by the Silver Wing? Lu Ling's voice was low. How about we talk about the Silver Wing Resistance? Seeing her still struggling, Lu Ling added, all right. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Lu Ling, from the Earth Federation, and this is Ola, a high-level artificial intelligence, or as you call it here, a mechanical intellect? Hello, Rosanilla's green pupils suddenly constricted. Earth Federation? High-level artificial intelligence. She repeated these 2 terms, each syllable seemingly carrying immense weight. The technology of the Silver Wing Resistance and that battleship, which returned forcefully with performance surpassing the Empire's standard equipment, had once been a trump card in her eyes, requiring a great cost to utilize. However, the term Earth Federation represented a completely different dimension. It was a living pioneer, almost akin to a myth. It was the cradle of human civilization, an existence that served as the source of technological advancement, where the technological gap was not merely an advancement, but more like a dimensional strike. However, Rosanilla quickly found a loophole. Why would a being from the cradle of human civilization, possessing high-level mechanical servants, deign to work on a pirate's shabby destroyer, diligently maintaining engines, caring for armor, and even personally participating in bloody battles in places like Blackwater Bay? Your enthusiasm for experiencing life seems overly realistic and too invested. Rosanella was very perceptive. Even though she had only met Lu Ling once, that one encounter allowed her to deduce many useful pieces of information and loopholes. If you truly possessed the power and background you claimed, Feng Ling's Night Orchid would never have been sunk by Zhuangbai. Just your high-level artificial intelligence servant alone could incapacitate any fleet of the Empire's electronic systems in an instant. You did not do that. Why? Was it to keep a low profile? Is it because you simply cannot? Or that the power you possess is not as limitless as you portray it to be at this moment? Her tone rose gradually. You are showing me all this because I have become your prisoner and you want information about the Silver Wings from me. Then why not send your mechanical servant to infiltrate the Empire's database? You use distant concepts like the Earth Federation and intelligent machines to intimidate me, hoping to make me abandon my thoughts in fear and submit. But, Your Excellency, fear may cloud wisdom, but the instinct for survival does not. Tell me, if you truly come from such a place and possess such power, why do you care about a mere 10 billion star coins? Unless, she elongated her voice, your power is not infinite. You have needs here, and you have your fears. You may have some technologies beyond our understanding, but you yourself, or your situation, is not without flaws. This ship, this Ola, may be strong, but surely it is not enough for you to disregard 10 billion star coins, is it? After speaking, she no longer looked at Ola, but fixed her gaze on Lu Ling, waiting for his reaction. This was a gamble. It bet on the limitations of Lu Ling's power, on the notion that he was not a true god, and that he still had to follow certain rules of reality. Even if she lost the bet, it would only hasten her demise, but at least she chose to think while standing rather than kneeling in awe. Rosaniella was different from Feng Ling. She was not as insane as Feng Ling, but far more sober. Lu Ling listened to Rosaniella's sharp rebuttal based on logical reasoning, raising his eyebrows slightly as if he had heard something extremely interesting, even nodding in agreement. Well said, clear logic, and quite reasonable analysis. He even lightly applauded twice, then abruptly changed his tone. But, Rosaniella, you think too highly of us Earthlings. The reason I'm laying my cards on the table is not because I want to play some game. It's simply because I am a mundane person, as ordinary as they come. If that 10 billion star coins are in my hands, then they are mine. Feng Ling told me that you Silver Wings are also eyeing this money. Fine, I'm a reasonable person and I dislike trouble. Lu Ling reached out, and Rosaniella was drawn to him by the force. So, let us not analyze any logical loopholes. Rather than waiting for you to come to me, I'll give you an opportunity. His smile turned dangerous and excited. Come, use the method you used last time to summon a thunderstorm, and send a signal to your Silver Wings headquarters. Tell them there's a person from the Earth Federation here with an intelligent machine-level assistant carrying 10 billion. Get your people to show some face. Don't come with just 1 or 2 ships, as if no one can afford to play. Assemble a fleet. Get a few fully equipped black stealth assault battleships over here. Thunderstorm class? I think it's just that. Lu Ling's expression calmed down. I'll be right here waiting to see if you Silver Wings have the capability to take this money from me. Go on, gather your people. Chapter 159, Training Ship, Endless Days. According to confidential information obtained by Ola, the Silver Wing resistance originated during the era of the Great Expansion of the Empire. They are neither pirates nor local warlords. Their core ideology is absolute freedom. Their creed is any form of power concentration, whether it be an empire, a corporation, or even a new order claimed in the name of justice, will ultimately devolve into the shackles of oppression. True freedom means that every individual possesses a destiny not controlled by any higher will. What they seek is not to establish a new government, but to dismantle all large systems that could potentially overshadow the individual, creating a universe where everyone is free. Their roots can be traced back to an elite star expeditionary force known as the Silver Wing Independent Expeditionary Legion, formed during the early establishment of the Empire. This legion was led by Marshal Karl Horn Silver Wing, an anomaly among the military aristocracy of the Empire, a talented and beloved young marshal, yet feared and ostracized by the aristocratic class. In the year 6374 of the Empire, a secret order was issued. The Empire commanded a military operation for the complete occupation of the border star system known as the Anthem Constellation, located in Sector 63, which at the time was a territory of an independent principality. Although it had not openly resisted the Empire, it firmly refused to merge with it. The military leadership believed that a terrifying display was needed to deter other potential unstable neutral regimes. This covert and dirty task ultimately fell upon Marshal Karl Horn Silver Wing and his legion. Knowing the implications, Karl Horn still faithfully executed the order. Over a span of 7,000 standard days, the Silver Wing Legion astonishingly dismantled the defenses of the entire constellation. Over 20 trillion civilians were slaughtered, and the entire ecosystem of the constellation was destroyed, turning it into a wasteland. However, shortly after the operation concluded, the Empire's military released a public report on the operation, branding Marshal Horn as the Butcher of Anthem and labeling him an enemy of humanity. Soon after, Karl Horn learned a harsh truth. The resistance of the Anthem Principality was not as resolute as believed. The Empire could have integrated them over time. The choice for extermination was purely a political maneuver, as someone sought to undermine his reputation due to his status as an outsider. Consumed by extreme anger and regret upon discovering the truth, Marshal Horn realized that he and his loyal legion were mere pawns in the power games of the Empire's aristocrats, having committed unforgivable crimes against humanity. On the eve of a grand triumphant ceremony prepared by the Empire, Marshal Karl Horn made the most significant decision of his life. He summoned his corps commanders and revealed the truth. Driven by profound grief and a desire for redemption, a portion of the Silverwing Legion chose to follow the Marshal in rebellion. They did not return to the capital of the Empire. Instead, leveraging their exceptional military capabilities, they launched surprise attacks on several of the Empire's border armories and supply stations, seizing vast amounts of ships, resources, and critical technological databases. Subsequently, this massive fleet sailed into the unknown depths of space, disappearing beyond the Empire's star charts. Calhoun Silverwing published his atonement declaration, confessing his past sins to the entire Legion and all future followers, declaring a complete break with the decayed and cruel Empire. He renamed the Legion the Silverwing Resistance and vowed that the meaning of survival was no longer loyalty to the Empire, but the overthrow of a regime built on lies and blood, forever bearing the sins of the bloodied 7,000 days until redemption was achieved. The Empire's officials defined the rebellion as a despicable escape, attributing the massacre of the bloodied 7,000 days entirely to Calhoun's personal brutality, claiming he had long harbored treasonous intentions and completely erased the Empire's directives and underlying conspiracies. Thus, from its inception, the Silverwing Resistance bore original sin. They were both the righteous army resisting imperial tyranny and the executioners who had once carried out ethnic cleansing. It was precisely due to their origins in the Empire's most elite legion that the Silverwing Resistance inherited the orthodox military thought, training systems, and solid military technology foundation of the Empire's peak period. Their strength stemmed from the legitimate military orthodoxy of the Empire, not from grassroots uprisings. Furthermore, they later received significant support from the United Stars Coalition. In certain tactical aspects, they had already surpassed the typical Imperial legions. On the Astro-class bridge, Lu Ling closed off the intelligence of the Silverwing Resistance and leaned back in his chair. Since he dared to let Roshanira call for help, he naturally could not be unprepared. This was a monster born from a mix of idealism, immense guilt, and military professionalism. He squinted. Their reasons for fighting were deeper and more dangerous than those of any pirate or local warlord. The core driving force of this entity is an extreme ideology evolved from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and moral injury. In their behavioral logic, the priority of destroying order is higher than that of establishing order. This makes them excellent destroyers, but extremely unreliable partners. Any attempt to ally with them will ultimately become their next target for destruction under their doctrine of absolute freedom. This was Aura's analytical conclusion. Very good, continue. The predecessor of the Silverwing Independent Expeditionary Legion was the Empire's most elite expeditionary force, from which it can be inferred that they possessed and perfectly mastered the complete military doctrines, fleet tactics, logistical support systems, and ship maintenance technologies of the Empire's peak period. But Aura, this event occurred over 4,000 years ago. Even the elite of the Empire, as long as they are human, cannot withstand the passage of time. Based on the organization's creed analysis, the probability of their use of cloning technology for mass production is higher than 99.67. Notably, they have received support from the United Stars Coalition. This means their technological development did not stagnate at the time of the rebellion, but rather incorporated the strengths of both the Empire and the United Stars Coalition. Their leading capabilities in specific tactical areas, such as electronic warfare, raids, and special operations, may have exceeded the response frameworks of regular Imperial forces. According to Open Intelligence Analysis, this organization possesses the capability to initiate a medium-scale constellation war. Lu Ling let out a long breath and rubbed his forehead. Ultimately, it all comes down to the lack of funds. Lu Ling felt a bit helpless. If he truly had several trillion star coins in his pocket, there would be no need to analyze these matters. Any enemy would be reduced to ashes in the face of absolute firepower. Wallet balance, 318 for 190. 882. Lu Ling casually browsed the marketplace, and suddenly, a category in the special edition ships caught his attention. Training ship. A training ship? Lu Ling was taken aback. This term triggered some distant and frustrating memories from certain mobile games. He instinctively clicked on it. The list expanded, and under almost all basic T1 models, there was a corresponding training type subcategory. The prices from the faction remained consistently affordable. His gaze locked onto a line of data. Tornado-class attack battlecruiser training type. Wheelbase. Length 220 meters. Width 182 meters. Height 548 meters. Mass 324,000 kg, 32. 4 billion tons. Effective shield strength. 1800 TJD effective armor strength. 1660 TJD effective structure strength. 1600 TJD capacitor core. 8800 TJ. Recharge time 25 minutes 45 seconds. Reactor output 7400 GWH 1280 GWH. Light wing. Maximum cruising speed 2430 ms. Jump preparation time 10 seconds. Jump speed 35 use drone bandwidth 500 bit. Large turret 012. Small turret 010. High energy slots 02. Medium energy slots 04. Low energy slots 03. Modification slots 00. Sale price 60. 000 ISK 60 million. The defense capability and capacitor had been significantly reduced, and the firepower configuration was also greatly diminished. But it was indeed very cheap. He then unexpectedly discovered a pleasant surprise. Tornado-class training equipment box contains a full set of Tornado-class training type equipment, limited to use on training ships. Training type 1400 mm Cannon 12. Optimal range 380 kilometers. Fall-off range 480 kilometers. Initial velocity 65 ms. Reload time 20 seconds. Training type 125 mm autocannon 10. Optimal range 20 kilometers. Fall-off range 46 kilometers. Initial velocity 45 ms. Reload time 20 seconds. Training type medium micro jump drive 1. High energy significantly increases power consumption. Cruising speed 500. Training type medium energy siphon 1. High energy optimal range 80 kilometers. Siphons energy from the opponent for personal use. Training type medium capacitor battery 1. Medium energy capacitor core 3500 TJ. Training type medium shield extender 2. Medium energy shield value 400. Training type medium adaptive shield reinforcer 1. Medium energy increases shield resistance to all types of damage. Training type targeting computer 1. Low energy optimal range 2. Fall off range 5. Training type stabilizer 2. Low energy shell initial speed 3. Loading time 20. Increases the firing rate of the artillery platform. Training type capacitor energy relay 1. Low energy quickly transfers shield energy to the capacitor core, improving the recharge rate of the capacitor core. Training type damage control 1. Low energy increases the resistance of shields, armor, and structure. Sale price 40,000 ISK. 100 million per ship for continuous use. They have all returned. Lu Ling recalled his early days when the server first opened, with only one ship to his name, participating in a large-scale battle with the Legion, and the only ship available was for continuous use. He noticed that the defense of the battle cruiser training ship was the same as that of a standard cruiser, yet it had firepower comparable to that of a battleship. Moreover, the Tornado class was never meant for direct confrontations. It is a high-speed long-range sniper platform. Its positioning is to leverage its high mobility, maneuvering around the edges of the battlefield, utilizing those 12 large turrets for high-speed raids, firepower projection, or long-range sniping. It complements the main force in flanking harassment and firepower support. As for defense, its true defense lies in its speed and range. Furthermore, the price of 40 million means he could even buy in bulk. Imagine forming a quick response fleet composed of several or even dozens of Tornado training ships, employing Wolfpack tactics. Although each is fragile, the concentrated fire of 1,400 mm shells would make even battleships feel anxious. Moreover, based on the current intelligence from the Empire, are they really that fragile? Well, one small target is a low-risk investment. There are ways to play with limited resources, Lu Ling murmured, a smile gradually appearing on his face. This is not a stripped-down version. It is clearly the epitome of cost-effectiveness. Ola, please compile a list of existing crew members who qualify for Minmator ship operations, especially those capable of operating the Tornado-class training ship. Current Minmator ship operation training crew, 156 people. Each Tornado-class training ship requires one captain and at least 15 crew members. Preliminary qualified list, 39 people. Chapter 160 Fleet Prototype. The numbers on the asset list flickered. 200, 000, 000, 10, 000, 000, ammunition. Wallet balance, 108, 490, 882 ISK. Activation successful. Please name the ship, Hunter 1, Hunter 2. Hunter 1, Tornado-class training type, named successfully. Hunter 2, Tornado-class training type, named successfully. Extraction. Please select extraction location, current position, confirm extraction buzz. An invisible yet immense force suddenly radiated from him. causing the void before him to ripple like water, with light refracting into strange colors within the distorted force field. But all of this lasted only a moment before returning to calm, as if nothing had happened. Lu Ling directly clicked board ship from his assets. The invisible coating peeled off like glass, shattering and revealing the dull white hull beneath. The first to break through the invisibility was the towering, sharp bow, followed by the elongated main hull. The multi-layer composite armor plates were stacked in a rugged and practical manner, with deep grooves forming a unique layered defense structure, giving a solid impression built to withstand heavy firepower. Finally, there was the iconic engine array, resembling gigantic wings. The entire ship displayed an unadorned gray-white base color, as if simply sprayed with anti-rust primer over a skeletal frame, exuding a raw industrial feel. Compared to the nearby battleship, it was significantly smaller. Orla, take control of these two ships. Requesting authorization. Authorization granted. Updating permission sequence. Update complete. Control of Hunter 1 and Hunter 2 acquired. Screen suitable captains and arrange personnel to board. Notify Sari to form the first fleet of Terror Hunters and conduct initial fleet formation training. Meanwhile, Lu Ling would take this time to return to Carthage for the second phase of Alpha Gene enhancement and also recruit some refugees. The fortress by Lake Khalifa spans 10 kilometers, making it hard to notice even with thousands more added. There were still too few crew members. Skill training progress could only rely on sheer numbers. Given the current economic situation, pursuing an elite route was still premature. About 30 minutes later, Sari had completed the initial reorganization of the fleet. Collection station port. All fleets, jump to the target point, free jump. The Death Spiral-class battleship and the two Tornado training models slowly adjusted their course and began to accelerate. The two Tornado ships jumped first, followed 10 seconds later by the Death Spiral class, their movements extremely smooth. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the dark waters, eternal darkness and scattered fragments of asteroid belts composed the main theme here. In the distance, a shattered star vortex resembled a slowly rotating, light-consuming maw, emitting unsettling gravitational disturbances. In this perilous void, a transport ship over 400 meters long and two destroyers navigated cautiously. This fleet belonged to a certain company. The Mule-class transport ship was a typical product of their own research and development, with a jump engine rumored to be a 1,000-year-old second-hand item acquired from the market, yet still operating steadily thanks to the ingenuity of the engineers. Its hull showcased the company's characteristic pragmatism, sharply defined armor plates, exposed reinforced structural supports, and densely distributed maintenance access points. The heavy bow was designed to push aside medium and small space debris when necessary, while the midsection featured a modular cargo hold, capable of being rapidly converted into standard container units, liquid fuel tanks, or heavy equipment racks based on mission needs. The stern was marked by a distinctive quad-mounted large thruster array. Although speed was not its strong suit, it excelled in stable thrust. On either side of its bow, the company's logo and their motto, "Steel is eternal, profit is paramount," were painted. At this moment, the atmosphere inside the bridge of the Mule-class transport ship was extremely tense, just like their cautious navigation trajectory. All active sensors have been turned off, and the communication system remains silent. Even the engine power is suppressed to the minimum, just enough to maintain basic maneuverability and life support. The main lighting on the bridge is off, with only the eerie blue glow from the console screens illuminating the tense faces of the crew. Maintain course. All units keep radio silence. Navigation officer, rely on optical and inertial navigation. Keep a close watch on every piece of debris. Captain Barks sits firmly in the captain's chair, his voice barely above a whisper, as if fearing that any louder sound would disturb something lurking in the darkness. He is a seasoned veteran, a deep scar on his cheek narrating tales of past glories, yet at this moment, his eyes are filled with unprecedented caution. The navigation officer's palms are sweaty as he carefully maneuvers the rudder, adjusting the course to avoid a massive iceberg slowly drifting ahead, using the high-powered searchlight at the bow of the ship. Nevertheless, vibrations from occasional meteoroid impacts resonate through the hull, striking at everyone's hearts. They have not yet reached the strong gravitational wave area of Blackwater Bay, still over 1,200 kilometers away. The first officer closely monitors the passive sensor data, detecting no abnormal energy fluctuations, but the range is limited. Captain, are we really going to approach Blackwater Bay visually? That's too risky. Risky? Captain Barks snorts coldly, the scar on his face appearing more menacing in the cold light. Since that terrifying hunter raided the Blackwater Bay Committee, what isn't risky? If we open the cosmic wave signal, it would be like a lighthouse in the night. We don't want to become that lighthouse. If caught, the usual ransom wouldn't even cover the gaps in our teeth. Barks sighs meaningfully, noting that no insurance company in Zhuangbi dares to cover this route anymore. Slow is better. At least it's safe. But Captain, this means the delivery time will be delayed by a standard day. The business department might not be pleased. Barks is confident. The higher-ups have been in a foul mood lately. The cash flow in Blackwater Bay has dried up, affecting many clients' supply chains. And the settlement cycle for the committee has been pushed to next year. The law does not punish the masses. The Black Steel Company, fully known as the Karasi Black Steel Heavy Industry Consortium, BSHAC, operates across multiple star domains, primarily engaged in weapon manufacturing, starship modifications, and strategic material supply. As long as there is profit, goods can be delivered to any corner of the Kosi constellation. However, recently, the Juangbi branch has suffered a severe blow, stemming from a pirate battleship's raid on the main trade hub of Blackwater Bay, indirectly tearing apart the already fragile trade order and shaking the Black Steel Company's interests in the area. Where did this terrifying hunter come from? A voice murmurs. The air in the bridge becomes completely still. The navigation officer instinctively shrinks his neck, as if the name carries a bone-chilling aura. The first officer's complexion has also turned paler, having only recently joined the company. She deeply feels for the first time that working on this massive ship means not only stable income and strong backing, but also becoming entangled in a whirlpool far more dangerous than it appears. At that moment, without any warning, two flashes of transition tore through the darkness at the edge of the starry sky on the right side of the mule transportation ship, with shadowy figures emerging. Following that was an even larger flash of transition, as a massive silhouette swept by. What is going on? Who are they? These uninvited guests were moving at an astonishing speed, causing everyone's hearts to race. It wasn't until they got closer that their true appearance was revealed. In the next instant, two large warships, painted in gray and white with sharp lines, appeared in the optical viewfinder. The unusually high number of gun barrels on their hulls completed their rotation and calibration the moment they appeared. Are these battlecruisers? Juangbai ships? An enemy attack. They found us. Buck said solemnly. They are coming straight for us. Let us see if we can negotiate. Our Black Steel Company has some influence. As the final shadow appeared in everyone's sight, they all widened their eyes in disbelief, and the navigator let out a scream. Is it a terror hunter? On the bridge of the death spiral, Sai Rue sat confidently in the command seat. At this moment, the bridge was no longer the empty space it was when Landaling was summoned. All 165 seats were fully occupied, and each group operated in an orderly manner. Navigation team, maintain the current relative position, forecast the gravitational tide, expect a slight disturbance in 3 minutes, adjust engine output 7 seconds in advance. Communication team, the entire fleet is in combat readiness, shut down redundant channels. Optical radar team, scan the current area, compare database to analyze ship characteristics. Sai Rue's voice was clear, calm, and devoid of any emotion. As the former commander of the Mimotaro Republic fleet, commanding a fleet of this scale was as natural to her as breathing, even to the point of being simplistic. Even if the enemy was weak, she showed no signs of relaxation. Instead, she focused even more intently, as if she were commanding a fully manned Republican main fleet. She aimed to train these new crew members. While the assistance provided by Aura was indeed powerful, the instincts of a warrior must be ingrained in their blood. Hunter 1, Hunter 2. Report the results of the artillery calibration. Hunter 1 reported. The synchronization rate of the 12 1,400mm main guns is 987. It is expected to reach 100 in 233 seconds, with a ballistic calculation error of less than 0.05 arc seconds. Finished. Hunter 2 reported. The synchronization rate of the 12 1,400mm main guns is still being tested with the medium and small transition thrusters. In the void, the blue tail flames of the two Tornado-class training ships erupted into dazzling brightness again, their speed suddenly increasing significantly as they headed towards the designated position. The thruster output power reached 360 in 17 seconds, and full power at 500 took 29 seconds, with the full power capacitor core decreasing by 41 per minute, remaining within the safety range. Finished. Sai Rue nodded slightly, satisfied with the performance of these training ships, which were cheaper than standard clone ships. Although their defenses and capacitors were weak, the core metrics of firepower and speed met expectations. Despite the short burst period, as long as they were used properly, they could exert combat power far exceeding their cost. Just then, the information officer from the optical radar team reported. Report, target ship signal characteristic analysis matched successfully. It is a mule-class medium transport ship from Black Steel Heavy Industries, affiliated with the logistics fleet of the Black Steel Company. Sai Rue's gaze locked onto 3 white light points on the main tactical star map. All fleets, prepare for battle, lock onto the 2 destroyers, prepare to fire. Report, Commander, they have surrendered. Chapter 161, Flesh and Weakness. The Juangbai Autonomous Territory, Core Circle, Commercial Colony Satellite Number 37, Emerald Pearl. It is only $32 Australian away from the bustling Carthage, appearing from the distant void like a large emerald, meticulously carved and embedded in black velvet. Countless transparent ecological domes cover its surface. Inside are lush aerial gardens, winding artificial rivers, and luxurious buildings gleaming with colorful neon lights. The crisscrossing flow of floating vehicles resembles glowing veins, continuously flowing through transparent transport tubes. Several large starports bloom like metallic flowers, constantly accommodating elegantly designed private yachts and lavish passenger shuttles alongside high-end cargo ships. The entire satellite radiates an extreme prosperity and a vibrant flow of wealth, serving as a brilliant business card for the Zhuangbai Autonomous Territory to showcase its economic strength and openness. Emerald Pearl is a paradise for the wealthy of Zhuangbai, with a permanent population exceeding 39 million. The headquarters of the Rabbit Biological Group, Zhuangbai Branch, is located here, covering a vast area and contributing tens of millions of star coins and taxes to Zhuangbai each year. 7 floors underground, the core area biological laboratory is codenamed Newborn. In stark contrast to the greenery and splendor above the satellite's surface, this is a cold, pure white metallic world filled with the scent of disinfectant and ozone. The air circulation system emits a near-silent low-frequency hum, maintaining a sterile and constant temperature. Massive cylindrical biological cultivation chambers stand like silent giant trees on either side, with various artificial muscle tissues suspended in a deep blue nutrient solution at different stages of development, pulsating rhythmically as if possessing independent life. At the deepest part of the laboratory is a circular operating platform isolated by multiple layers of explosion-proof glass. In the center of the platform, 2 humanoid biological mechanical skeletons, gleaming with metallic cold light, are fixed side by side. The outlines of the skeletons are vaguely humanoid, but they appear larger and more robust, with complex hydraulic drives and energy conduits at the joints, and a cavity reserved at the cranial position, obviously prepared for the brain core. Lord Beckett stood quietly in the observation corridor, dressed in a sterile protective suit, his hands clasped behind his back, with a cold gaze through the mask resting on the operating platform. Beside him stood the chief technology officer of the Zhuangbai Branch Laboratory, a middle-aged man with a fervent expression and deep-set eyes. "My lord, everything is ready." The technician's voice was excited. The synchronization rate of the carrier's neural interface has reached 997, and the biological matrix fusion is stable. We are just waiting for the core to be implanted. Beckett nodded slightly, not saying a word. "Then let us begin." At that moment, in the operating room, 2 assistants pushed 2 precision instrument carts onto the operating platform. Each cart was equipped with a transparent high-strength crystal container filled with a light golden, slightly glowing active maintenance fluid. In the center of the solution, gently suspended and pulsing slowly, was the well-preserved complete brain of Rachel and Rinky, filled with fine blood vessels and bundles of nerves. Lord Beckett felt grateful for his initial decision. Without this daring move, the subsequent plans might not have progressed as smoothly. However, even for someone like Beckett, who was accustomed to various biological modification scenes, his pupils involuntarily contracted at the sight before him. He felt somewhat unaccustomed. As a diplomat and intelligence officer of the Rabbit, these things had always seemed distant to him. Yet now, with power in his hands, he had to adapt his mindset. The 2 masses of gray matter, soaked in liquid, were the last remnants of the once formidable Red Devil leader and his son, the only carriers of consciousness and memory, now displayed like uninstalled components. The implantation procedure began as the technician issued the command. On the operating table, a mechanical arm as fine as a hair delicately reached down, first extracting Rachel's brain. It was carefully transferred to a tray covered with miniature suction cups and sensory probes. The container was ready. Next, another set of more precise mechanical arms began to work like the fingers of a surgical master. The neural grafting commenced. They first connected the spinal cord's main nerve bundle extending from the base of the brain to the artificial nerve cord woven from superconducting nanofibers, which had already been prepared at the neck of the mechanical skeleton. A faint electric current flickered, and the biological glue at the interface began to cure rapidly, perfectly merging the organic nerve with the inorganic interface. The flow grafting began. Subsequently, more miniature mechanical arms commenced the grafting of the brain's vascular network to the mechanical energy circuit. Energy conduits, thinner than a hair, were implanted in the original blood vessel locations, replacing their function of delivering nutrients and oxygen, and connecting to the miniaturized fusion battery embedded in the skeleton. This process was extremely delicate, nearly invisible to the naked eye, revealing only the faint glimmer of the mechanical arm tips and the brain's surface vascular network gradually replaced by a pale blue energy flow. The primary life support LabioX Ascension system was successfully connected. The neural translator was online. The base consciousness writing protocol was initiated. Once the basic connections were completed, the most critical step arrived. The mechanical arm slowly and precisely submerged the modified semi-mechanized brain into the cranial cavity of the mechanical skeleton prepared for Rachel. The interior of the cranial cavity was filled with sensors and cooling units, securely fixing the brain and physically connecting it to the sensor array of the skeleton. Labia X visual, nerves activated. Labia X auditory, nerves activated. Labia X tactile, nerves activated. Labia X auditory sensory, nerves activated. Almost simultaneously, another skeleton completed the implantation of Renki's brain. After the implantation, several low-energy coherent laser scanning grids instantly enveloped their brains, constructing a three-dimensional holographic model with picometer-level precision in real time, marking the direction and key nodes of every major blood vessel and nerve bundle. The stabilizing agent is injected with the aim of maintaining the resting potential of neurons and inhibiting non-directional neural discharge. A microinjector precisely delivers a specially formulated nanoscopic agent to key areas such as the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, ensuring that consciousness does not collapse due to information overload during the initial activation phase. Immediately afterward, a mechanical arm retrieves two wafer-thin, iridescent chips from the material storage compartment. The embedded auxiliary superbrain computer is installed to locate the gap between the new cortex and the inner cranial bone. The chips are gently affixed to specific areas of the cerebral cortex, with countless neural probes finer than spider silk silently extending outwards to establish non-invasive functional connections with the upper layer of neurons. This superbrain will not replace the native brain. Rather, it will act as a coprocessor responsible for processing the massive data streams from this super-mechanical framework, executing combat calculations, environmental analyses, and other complex tasks, greatly liberating and enhancing the cognitive and decision-making capabilities of the native brain. The initialization link is successfully established. The Labia XOS system kernel is activated, and the basic driver protocol begins to load. A gentle yet powerful flow of energy permeates all interfaces between the brain and mechanical framework, and the entire system begins a power self-check. A circulating cooling neurofluid is injected. The cold blue liquid starts to circulate within the newly constructed vascular network, carrying away the heat generated by the biological brain and electronic components, ensuring stable operation of the system under extreme conditions. A neuronal maintenance solution is injected. A golden liquid rich in neurotrophic factors and energy substrates is simultaneously infused, providing the biological brain with the optimal maintenance environment. Closure begins. The shell of the cranial environment control unit is precisely closed with several layers of flexible biometal alloy sheets, emitting crisp clicks, forming a completely sealed life support system. All physical connections are verified, physiological parameters are stable, and feedback from each unit of the mechanical system is normal. The Labia XOS system's full protocol self-check is completed. The first carrier pulse stimulation can begin. Lord Beckett coldly observes and utters two words: execute. A faint calibration current pulse is injected deep into the brains of Rachel and Renki. In an instant, a mutation arises. The high-precision optical sensors in the eyes of the two mechanical frameworks suddenly glow red, continuously adjusting focus like predators engaged in complex spectral scanning. They seem to capture and analyze the spectral information of the entire laboratory in an instant. Ugh! The two machines emit low growls and begin to instinctively struggle. The high-strength titanium tungsten alloy clamps fixing their limbs and torsos emit a grating metallic distortion sound, while hydraulic stabilizers work frantically to counter this sudden immense force. Rachel's right mechanical arm suddenly strains, the armor plate at her forearm slightly lifting to reveal the underlying flickering weapon interface and energy conduits. Although the weapons are not activated, the sense of impending pressure is palpable. Renki's body exhibits astonishing agility, with the plasma hydraulic system at the joints emitting a low roar as it attempts to break free with high-frequency vibrations. The pulse stimulation was successful. The experimental subjects have awakened and are struggling. The two operators remained relatively calm, but their voices betrayed their unease. No need to panic. The technicians' eyes gleamed with fervor. This was clear proof of the perfect synergy between the ascendant framework and the dense crystalline muscle fiber bundles. Every movement, they made summoned mechanical power far beyond human limits. Initiate the secondary movement restriction protocol and increase the dosage of the sedative. He looked at the two mechanical bodies as if viewing his proudest creations. With stronger restraints and the injection of sedatives, the two violent forms gradually calmed down. Who are you? Rachel's voice was filled with confusion as he looked at his mechanical hand. How did I end up like this? The voice of his father, Rienk, echoed nearby. Is this hell? Lord Beckett finally smiled. He did not see two suffering souls, but rather two sharp weapons nearing completion. Flesh and blood are weak, while mechanical ascendance is strength. This is the true rebirth granted by the rabbit family. Chapter 162. Mechanical ascendance. The operators quietly exited, leaving only the two imprisoned mechanical bodies in the pure white space. They stared blankly at this unfamiliar cage. Lord Beckett slowly walked to the communicator in the observation corridor and pressed the button, his voice coldly transmitting to the operation platform. Rachel, re-inc. Welcome to your new life. Who? Rachel's voice, transformed by the synthesizer, sounded hoarse and fragmented, filled with alertness and lingering chaos. His cold red sensors locked onto the blurred figure behind the observation corridor. The isolation window gradually became transparent, and Rachel and re-inc quickly focused on Beckett. A person who has given you a second chance at life, Beckett said slowly. Look at yourselves. Forget those fragile, decaying flesh bodies. You are now stronger, closer to an eternal form of existence. This ascendant alloy framework can easily tear apart powered armor, and the built-in weapon systems are sufficient to take on a full infantry squad. The auxiliary superbrain will allow your thought processes to surpass human limits. This is the grace bestowed upon you by the Rabbit family. The Rabbit family. The Marquis. Rachel's speaker erupted with a sharp, distorted screech. And then the voice became even sharper. You've turned us into monsters? Monsters? Lord Beckett's voice remained steady, though a hint of pity flickered in his eyes. No. This is a masterpiece. He mocked. Mr. Rachel, you were once the Red Devil pirate captain who roamed the fragments of Zwanby, instilling fear in the merchant fleets. You should know better than anyone that in this starry sky, power is the only passport. Weak emotions and attachment to your fleshly forms will only lead you to become prey, just like how you and your son did before, dying as mere garbage. Is that so? Then let us die and become garbage. It is better than becoming this abomination. This is not living. This is not humanity. Beckett shook his head, speaking each word clearly. This is humanity. He raised his voice. Look at this powerful body. It will not tire. It will not age. Radiation and vacuum are its cradle. It can withstand G-forces strong enough to vaporize mere mortals. The built-in weapon system makes you a legion all by yourself. This is the pure evolution of humanity after discarding all weaknesses. We are merely liberating you from the shackles of flesh and blood. Liberation? Evolution? Rachel emitted a broken, almost crying electronic laugh. Ha ha ha. I feel no wind, no heat of wine, not even the warmth of my son. His voice faltered with intense emotion, like a faulty circuit. Each pause filled with immense, silent pain. Father, let's break out. Ranky's eyes glowed redder, trying to break free from his restraints. Rachel did not respond. The static grew more pronounced. There is no heartbeat, no breath in this body, only those damned numbers filling my head. What kind of life is this? What does it mean to be alive? To be alive. It is pain that propels me forward. It is joy that makes me long for tomorrow. I have no fear now. His voice suddenly soared, filled with a tragic power. Without body heat or desire, I will not bleed. I am merely a tool of slaughter driven by lines of code, devoid of warmth. You have drained the ocean, yet given me an unsinkable iron shell. Then tell me I have gained the ocean? He looked at Beckett again, his voice lowering but filled with determination. The Rabbit family, right? I know you are strong. Stronger than others, 100 times, 1,000 times stronger. I know what you want. You want me to tear apart others for you, to be your tool, to seize that Earth Federation prize, thus hiding your sly, hypocritical faces. You are more terrifying than others. At least they would grant a swift end to the defeated. Perhaps you have implanted something in this body to torment my mind, but you will never conquer us. We are pirates. Pirates are free. Even if I lose to you nobles, I will never become a slave who cannot even decide death for myself. Kill us, or I will use this iron body you bestowed upon me to kill you. The laboratory fell into silence. Only the sound of cooling liquid flowed like a cold elegy. The last trace of feigned calm on Lord Beckett's face vanished as he looked expressionlessly at the fiercely resisting mechanical creation below. His gaze as cold as the depths of space. He understood, and also miscalculated. Even after such transformation, the rebellious spirit deep within Rachel and the extreme yearning for freedom had never been erased. This was no longer a simple tool, but a dangerous, undying soul forcibly shoved into a powerful container. What a pity, he murmured, that sigh akin to mourning an artwork about to be destroyed. I had hoped to preserve this rebelliousness, this complete memory and emotion, to collaborate with us. Preserve? Rachel's mechanical throat emitted a disdainful hum. To preserve it. Is it so we can taste this humiliation more clearly? Beckett turned his gaze to Reinke, asking, and you, young man? Are you willing to embrace true death alongside your father rather than this steel eternity? The red light in Reinke's eyes flickered intensely. The destructive energy contained within his new body momentarily intoxicated him. Yet ultimately, his loyalty to his father overshadowed everything. His voice, more suited to the metallic tone, carried the same resoluteness. Whoever my father wants to kill, I will kill. Let me out, and I will let you taste eternity first. The last glimmer of hope in Beckett's eyes extinguished, and he wearily waved his hand. Well, I didn't expect to say goodbye upon our first meeting. I respect your choices. He turned away, no longer looking at the control platform, and issued the final command to the Chief Technology Officer. Initiate the formatting protocol. Remove all native emotional memory modules and execute a deep personality overwrite. These two are valuable, don't ruin them. Understood, my lord, the technician replied humbly, bowing slightly. His eyelids lowered, revealing a hint of indescribable regret. This had been the pinnacle of his life's work. A masterpiece capable of achieving mechanical ascension while almost perfectly preserving biological consciousness. What a pity, these two pirates with their stubbornness. Wasn't he just a stronger, more eternal body? What was there to be unwilling to accept? However, the technician considered it from another perspective. If it were him, he wouldn't change either. He had a dozen wives and dozens of children, and those soft affections and noisy domesticity were dimensions that this cold metal could never reach. Begin execution. The technician gathered his thoughts and entered the final command on the console. The memory stripping program was initiated. Target: hippocampus, emotional association area of the prefrontal cortex. The cold electronic voice echoed in the laboratory. Rachel and Reinke jolted as if an invisible, icy probe had pierced the deepest part of their consciousness. Father. Reinke's voice, for the first time, carried a clear, instinctive fear. He struggled, fiercely, and stiffly turned his head towards Rachel's direction. I feel like I'm forgetting you. Rachel did not struggle. With the last remnants of consciousness belonging to him, he emitted a calm, almost whispering electronic voice. Good boy, we are not forgetting. We are dying. Living is not about breathing, not about heartbeat, not about this steel strength. Living is remembering why you are angry, why you laugh, why you fight, why you have dreams, and why you fear death. We have actually been dead for a long time. What remains of us now is just residual memory, incomplete beings, mere puppets of theirs. I'm sorry, Father. Reinke's words abruptly halted. Formatting complete. Initiating the injection of preset personality memories. Loading tactical skill package. Core instruction protocol is being written. The controller has been generated. On the operation platform, the two mechanical bodies became completely still. They were quietly fixed on the brackets, their heads slightly bowed, and the red light of their eye sensors stabilized and evened out, devoid of any emotional flicker, replaced only by a cold sheen of efficiency, ready and waiting. Lord Beckett took one last look at the two perfect creations, his expression devoid of the initial pride, replaced by an unfathomable indifference. He turned and left the observation corridor. In the laboratory, only the faint hum of the instruments remained. Rachel and Reinke had, at that moment, completely perished. What survived were merely two new weapons. Two new assets of the rabbit family. Their past had been formatted, and their future had been programmed. Steel would eventually ascend, while the souls had long returned to eternal silence and nothingness the moment their memories were erased. Chapter 163. The calm before the storm. Carthage Star, Juam City, Triumph Fortress. Study. The last rays of the sun filtered through the large glass windows, casting a warm golden glow over the solemn furnishings of the study. The air thick with the tranquil scent of ancient books and old leather. Count Cruin had just finished a secure communication, staring thoughtfully at his Corsi cigar. The door to the study swung open, and Parker walked in briskly, the hem of his dark coat creating a slight breeze. Father. His voice broke the stillness of the study, tinged with a barely perceptible tension. Rosanella has already handed over to Lord Lu Ling. He paused briefly, his throat moving slightly. I still think this is inappropriate. Count Cruin slowly raised his gaze, his golden eyes, illuminated by the sunlight, appearing deep and calm. How did you discuss it? Lord Lu Ling said he accepted the silver legacy, and as for the troubles that follow, he will handle them personally. Parker took a deep breath, stepping forward and pressing his hands forcefully against the cold hardwood table. Father, have we underestimated the risks involved? That buyer is Silverwing. Although Lord Lu Ling possesses technology and power beyond our imagination, he is ultimately still weak in numbers. By directly handing over Silverwing's contact to him, we are essentially placing the most conspicuous target right in front of him. Moreover, our defense preparations are far from complete. Count Cruin listened quietly until Parker had expressed all his concerns. A brief silence fell over the study. Parker, the Count finally spoke, his voice still steady but carrying an absolute control that could calm the storm. Your concerns indicate that you possess the caution befitting an heir and have recognized the first layer of risks. That is good. He stood up, his tall figure casting a long shadow in the setting sun, and walked slowly to the large celestial map of the Kosi constellation on the wall, his gaze falling on the light representing the Carthage star system. However, have you considered why Lord Lu Ling would actively request to take on this trouble? Parker was taken aback. He indeed had not thought that far. Cruin did not turn back, continuing, he has shown us technology far beyond comprehension. One bets against Geddes, and even managed to silently take away Feng Ling right under your nose. All this demonstrates his absolute confidence in himself. But more importantly, Parker, do you see the true meaning behind his actions? Cruin slightly turned his body. He directed Silverwing's gaze toward himself, seemingly inviting trouble, but in reality, it was a strategic maneuver of offense over defense. He actively lured a deeply concealed and uncontrollable potential threat here, seeking an opportunity for a direct confrontation. Count Clurin pointed towards the autonomous region of Zhuangbai and slowly said, "This not only demonstrates absolute confidence in one's own strength, but is also an extremely clever strategic move." Parker was shaken. His father's few words had thoroughly analyzed Lu Ling's seemingly risky actions. At that moment, there was a light knock on the study door, followed by the butler entering. He first bowed slightly to Parker. "Young master." Then he turned to Count Clurin, maintaining his usual respectful demeanor. But there was a hint of gravity in his eyes. "Sir, we have preliminary results regarding the investigation you requested." Clurin's gaze remained unchanged. He merely nodded slightly, signaling him to continue. The butler lowered his voice further, ensuring every word was clear. "Elder Roni has recently had several secret meetings with a Baron Beckett from the Marquisate of Rabbit with a very high confidentiality level. After the meetings, Elder Roni returned to his private estate and dealt with Rachel and his son as per your instructions." He paused briefly before delivering the most crucial information, but we were a step late. Following the clues to the incineration site, we found 2 additional clones there. Based on the traces, they likely originated from the Rabbit Biological Laboratory. Currently, the whereabouts of Rachel and his son are unknown. To avoid alarming the snake, I shifted my focus to Beckett, discovering that he has checked into the Lily Hotel, booking the top-floor Imperial Suite. Upon hearing this, Parker's pupils suddenly contracted, and he looked sharply at his father, his voice rising with shock and anger. "Father, Rabbit's influence extends this far. I will handle Beckett immediately." Count Clurin showed no sign of surprise or anger. He slowly walked back to his desk and sat down with calm composure. "It's too late." The Count gestured with his chin to the butler, who respectfully bowed and exited the study. Beckett's boldness in staying at the Lily Hotel was itself a provocation, testing whether we would react angrily or foolishly pretend not to know. Either reaction would make it easier for him to gauge our strengths and weaknesses. Clurin pondered, his expression growing somber. "Roni knows quite a bit. If you withdraw 500 million from the family treasury, the Marquis of Eisen will certainly be aware of our strained financial situation. If I were him," he raised his head, his gaze sharp as he looked at Parker, "I would strike on 2 fronts. On one hand, prioritize attacking our cash flow, causing the most significant and simplest tax crisis, the ceremony of 5 decades, to explode, forcing us into chaos amidst tax troubles. Once we show signs of weakness, he would appear as a savior, buying our most precious clients at the lowest price, even proposing a marriage alliance. Of course, the most direct method would be to kill you." Parker felt a chill down his spine, but the pride of an heir naturally surfaced. Assassinating the first heir of an imperial hereditary noble? Does he have the audacity to do that? According to Article 1 of Chapter 3 of the Noble Inheritance Protection and Judgment of the Empire, any actions determined by the joint tribunal of the upper and lower houses of the imperial nobility and ultimately reported for the emperor's approval that involve planning, executing, or assisting in the harm of hereditary nobles through direct or indirect means, and are recorded by the imperial ancestral court and the noble council as the first-ranked heirs, constitute the most severe challenge to the imperial bloodline and the foundation of governance, akin to the highest level of treason, and are unforgivable. The principal offenders and all core accomplices who are aware of or involved in the act, regardless of their titles, along with their direct and indirect family members, based on original DNA characteristics, shall be executed immediately upon identification, regardless of age or gender, and their families shall be punished for 20 generations. Affiliated families and in-laws shall not be exempted, and joining the council shall be prohibited for 500 years. This law is retroactive indefinitely. In other words, if later allied families are found to be implicated, they will also face the same fate. This decree is extremely harsh, but it has indeed greatly curtailed internal assassinations. The sword of the law only has deterrent power when it can strike directly. Cruin shook his head slightly, his tone laced with a hint of sarcasm. An old fox like Eisen, at such a level, would certainly leave no evidence of any ruling or approval. He has ways to turn a murder into an eternal unsolved case. As long as the benefits are substantial enough, there are no bottom lines that cannot be crossed. He looked at Parker, a cold expression appearing on his face. However, since he has made his move, if we do not respond, it would only make us seem cowardly. With Marquis Eisen's generous invitation, I, Zuenbeck Cruin, will play this game to the end. Yet how this game is played, and who sets the rules, may no longer be up to him. Parker took a deep breath and redirected the conversation to the core concern. "So, Father, how is His Excellency Lord Lu Ling preparing?" "It was my decision to let Valentine go that led to the current situation." Cruin interrupted him. "No, Valentine is a living asset. Without him, Seeking Silver Wing would be akin to searching for a needle in a haystack. The situation is still under control. There is no need to worry about that. Moreover, the Empire has many troops watching Silver Wing, and as for His Excellency Lord Lu Ling, we need not worry. He has his own confidence in facing Silver Wing. He stood up and walked back to the star map, looking intently at his son, as his most important ally at this moment. What we should do is not to doubt or worry about his decisions, but to think about how to make this alliance unbreakable in the approaching storm. Father, what do you mean? Count Cruin's finger pressed heavily on the Carthage star system, as if to imprint that point into the star map. A great storm is coming, Parker. But perhaps this tempest is just the opportunity to sweep away the old order and allow the Zuenbeck family to sail towards a broader sea of stars. What we need to do is to play along with his game. He wants chaos? We will give him chaos that he cannot control. He wants opportunity? We will give him an opportunity that leads to his utter ruin. What of the Marquis? The Count's voice suddenly rose, carrying an undeniable authority. In this vast constellation, it was not up to the Rabbit family to dictate terms. Chapter 164. Greed in the Partia Empire, the 63rd star district, in the Kosi constellation, lies the province of Colossi. Undoubtedly, Colossi is the brightest jewel of the Kosi constellation, the ultimate hub of politics, military, economy, culture, science, and academia within the entire star domain. Here not only resides the office of the governor of Colossi, but it is also home to the upper and lower houses of the Kosi Empire, the Imperial Cabinet's branch, the Supreme Court, and numerous legions of the Kosi Navy, including the headquarters of the Grand Legions. Additionally, the powerful governing council of the Kosi region operates here. Colossi is the beating heart of the Kosi constellation, with each pulse influencing the fate of hundreds of noble autonomous territories and provinces. This place gathers the largest financial capital, the most powerful trading guilds, and the headquarters of all significant interstellar enterprises in the Kosi constellation. A slight ripple in the data flow of the Colossi Financial Center can trigger economic tsunamis in distant star regions. To describe the security of this place, the most powerful statement would be that there are no pirates in Colossi. In the deep space acceleration orbit of Zhuangbai, at the 176th Imperial Customs Space Station, stands an intimidating structure of steel, with each axis reaching an astonishing 100 kilometers. Its scale far exceeds that of ordinary orbital stations, with dozens of massive deep space acceleration tracks, shimmering with arcs of energy, extending thousands of kilometers from the core area of the space station into the depths of the universe, with the other end leading to the Zhuangbai Autonomous Territory. Every day, thousands of transport ships, laden with goods, resources, and hope, come and go, dock, refuel, or seek reliable security partnerships. The space station itself is a symbol of extreme efficiency and power. Its external armor is incredibly thick, covered with various types of scanning arrays, communication antennas, and defensive turrets, in addition to thousands of orbital turrets surrounding it in the void. Here, 2 fully staffed fleets of the Imperial Customs are stationed, with over 30 Martyr-class battleships alone. And there are nearly 300 such customs space stations throughout Colossi. Entering the interior of the space station reveals an even more magnificent scene. The enormous central dispatch port can accommodate hundreds of large cargo ships, each over a kilometer long, for docking and maintenance simultaneously. Countless thick energy conduits and material transport pipelines connect the docks to the depths of the station like veins. Giant robotic arms perform loading and unloading operations with dazzling precision and speed. Behind this efficient operation lies the core command center of the Colossi 176th Customs, located in the most securely protected area of the space station. Here, in stark contrast to the bustling port area, massive light screens display a continuous stream of data, registration information of every ship entering the port, cargo manifests, crew backgrounds, navigation trajectories, and even communication permit keys. Thousands of customs officers sit before consoles reminiscent of starship bridges, expressionlessly handling the torrent of information. Every action they take may determine the fate of a ship and the forces behind it, whether it passes through smoothly, is detained for inspection, or even marked secretly. Above the command center are independent offices with one-way transparent glass, designated for high-ranking officials. In one of the offices with the best view, overlooking a large portion of the main port area, Customs Inspector Commissioner Strain is leisurely savoring a fine brew from an agricultural planet. His office is luxuriously soundproof, completely isolating him from the noise outside. At this moment, he is admiring a large cargo ship registered to Zhuangbai that has just exited its acceleration trajectory and is undergoing a deep scan. A lazy smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Life in this secure position is incredibly comfortable. Having reached his status, he comes here daily and earns 1.45 million credit points a month, enough to support several mistresses and their children across different regions of the Kalaki main star. His life is pleasant and exceedingly stable. Occasionally, there are even opportunities for profit. The door slides open silently, and his secretary and mistress strides in quickly, whispering, "The envoy from Marquis Rabbit has arrived." Using the high-priority business customs clearance channel. How many times have I said it? Use titles in the office. Strain frowns, puts down his cup, and adjusts his collar. What would others think if they heard that? Should I continue with my work? Sorry, Commissioner Strain. This softens Strain's expression, and he quickly puts on a professional and warm smile. Please, come in. Soon, the envoy enters. The man is dressed modestly, with a reserved demeanor, carrying a standard business data case. After some pleasantries, the case is opened, revealing not documents, but an electronic confidential file and an anonymous credit card imprinted with the Rabbit family's secret emblem, with an amount of 1 million star coins. A small consulting fee, a token of respect. The envoy's voice is calm and unruffled. Strain's gaze flicks over the gold card, his breath catching momentarily. It's thousands of times his annual salary. Enough for him to purchase a mansion in Kalaki's top-tier areas, provide his offspring with the best educational resources, or even secure a more prominent nominal position. A surge of immense greed floods through Strain. He forces himself to remain calm, but his throat betrays him, involuntarily swallowing as he suppresses the urge to reach out. He forces an even broader smile, personally filling the envoy's glass. You are too kind, my lord. May I ask what specific consultation this concerns? I will share all I know. For beings like them, the metabolism has reached an astonishing level, making drinking alcohol as easy as drinking water. The envoy looks around. Rest assured, there is no one else here. Strain assures him earnestly. However, the envoy still keeps a hand concealed, opening his palm in front of him. Strain glances at it, and his smile freezes instantly, the color draining from his face at a visible speed. His heart races, and he no longer dares to look at the gold card, as if it were a deep abyss of hell. This cannot happen. The envoy seemed to have anticipated his reaction, showing no surprise on his face, but instead a cold smile that almost conveyed pity. Inspector Strain, have another good think about it? He gently pushed the credit card forward another half-inch, the string of numbers burning Strain's eyes. Right before him, the envoy whispered, let us add another incentive. Once this is accomplished, the Rabbit family will provide you and your immediate relatives with new identities and permanent asylum in the Rabbit Marquis. There, you will be far from the troubles of Kola Sea and enjoy your twilight years as a wealthy gentleman. No matter if it's the Joao Bay or the Customs Integrity Bureau, their reach 1T extend into the territory of a powerful marquis. Permanent asylum? The term felt like a lifeline, giving Strain, who was on the verge of drowning, a glimmer of hope. If this were true, he would indeed be worry-free for the next life. But immediately after, a deeper chill swept over him. He stared hard at the envoy, his voice hoarse. Go to the Rabbit domain? Huh, Mr. Envoy, do you take me for a 3-year-old? If I step onto the Marquis' territory, whether I live or die, isn't it all up to you? How long can I enjoy being this wealthy gentleman? I fear my family and I would disappear even more cleanly than in Kola Sea. This is not asylum. It's clearly walking into a trap. He emphasized the words walking into a trap, his face filled with distrust and deep fear of the Marquis Rabbit. Compared to the overt, severe punishments of imperial law, he feared more the kind of silent disappearance where not even a body is found. The envoy chuckled lightly. Inspector Strain, caution is a good thing. But you need to understand one point. Rabbit chose you because you have value. For Rabbit, the unexpected disappearance of someone valuable is a loss, not a gain. What we need are capable individuals who can get things done, not a cold corpse. Besides, this amount of money is merely a part of the daily expenses for the Rabbit family. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the luxurious decor of the office, and continued suggestively. And do you really believe your current life is absolutely safe? You've received quite a bit of money before, haven't you? Let me send you another message. The new director of the Kola Sea Customs Integrity Bureau has a whole pack of hungry wolves under him. And your position has likely been targeted long ago. The envoy's voice was like a serpent's tongue, gently lapping at Strain's nerves of fear. Accept, and you and your family will gain wealth and safety. You must know the reputation of the Rabbit family, right? And if you refuse, what you may face could be more than just the imperial courts, but also dangers from the shadows that are beyond prediction. Kola Sea has no pirates, but it has never lacked for accidents lurking in the dark. What do you think, Inspector Strain? Strain's forehead broke out in fine cold sweat. He slumped in his chair, the cold sweat soaking through the lining of his expensive uniform. The envoy's words were like a cold pair of tweezers, precisely probing into the cracks of his heart, bringing to the surface his deepest fears of losing his current comfortable life and the invisible hand of the anti-corruption agency, laid bare under the scorching light of 1 million star coins. The bribes he had previously accepted seemed like mere dust compared to this vast sum. And once those bribes were targeted by the anti-corruption agency, they could bring him to ruin, throwing him directly from this comfortable office into the deepest, darkest punishment prison of the underworld, leaving his mistresses and children with nothing, and they might even be implicated. The envoy no longer pressed, simply savoring a sip of wine with a raised brow. The air was still for a full 3 minutes. Finally, Strain seemed to emerge from the water, taking a long, trembling breath. The Lord Marquis indeed had considered everything. He squeezed the words out from between his teeth. The envoy smiled slightly, setting down his glass, knowing that the other party's psychological defenses had developed a decisive crack. However, Strain suddenly lifted his head, a glimmer of cunning and obsession flashing in his eyes amidst his desperation. Yet, just as he opened his mouth to speak, he was coldly interrupted by the envoy. Commissioner Strain, the envoy's voice carried a chill and condescension. I will kindly remind you, considering this wine is rather good, do not attempt to negotiate terms. You do not have that qualification. These 7 words pierced Strain's heart like an ice pick, instantly shattering all his hopes and thoughts of dancing on the edge of a knife. Qualification? What qualification did he have to negotiate with an envoy of a powerful marquis? What qualification did he have to bargain on the territory drawn by the Rabbit family? The options presented were never up for discussion. He had just foolishly imagined he could secure more guarantees. It was simply madness. The overwhelming fear, stemming from the absolute disparity of class and power, poured over him like ice water, extinguishing the greedy and fearful flames within him. Strain suddenly shivered, completely awakening. He forced out a smile that was more difficult to see than tears, filled with flattery and fear, bowing repeatedly to the envoy. Please, sir, do not be angry. I was confused. I lost my mind. He explained incoherently. I am immensely grateful for the Lord Marquis's grace. How could I dare to have any improper thoughts? He took a deep breath, as if using all his strength, his voice trembling yet exceptionally clear in stating his position. Within 10 minutes, I will prepare all the information. He humbly lowered his head, not daring to look into the envoy's eyes, let alone the credit card that seemed to exude a hellish aura at that moment. It was his duty to serve the Marquis, hoping that one day, considering Strain's meager service today, the Marquis might offer a bit of protection for his family. His voice became softer, filled with desperate pleading. Strain chose to submit, but in a more conservative manner, trying to preserve himself. He no longer dared to ask for that 1 million star coins. The envoy quietly watched his performance, the cold smile on his face not dissipating but deepening. After a long silence, the envoy slowly stood up and adjusted his collar. Inspector Strain, you are quite clever, he said, his tone revealing no hint of emotion. After speaking, he did not glance at Strain again. He left the electronic document behind, as it was empty and still required Strain to upload data. As for the credit card, he leisurely pocketed it. Then, he took out a pre-prepared white card containing 5,000 star coins and placed it slowly in front of Strain. This is a reward you deserve for being a clever person. The door closed gently. Strain, feeling utterly drained, collapsed heavily back into his chair, gasping for breath. He had survived for now, but he knew that from this moment on, he had been drawn into a vortex he could not control. His future was no longer in his own hands. The greedy feast had not yet begun, but had already scattered in the midst of his waking fear. He looked at the 5,000 star coins with a bitter smile, realizing that all the envoy had left him with were endless apprehension and bottomless worries. Chapter 165, Lunar Mining Carthage, Khalifa City, Lakeside Fortress, Morning. The low rumble of an engine grew closer, and a sleek, matte black internal combustion sports car sped through the gates of the Lakeside Fortress. It did not stop at any designated parking space, but drifted in a near-perfect arc, precisely halting before the heavy obsidian gate of the main fortress. The engine turned off, and the car door lifted like wings. The first to step out was a small foot clad in flat white shoes, followed by the petite figure of Gaddis, who landed gracefully. Her expression was calm, with her golden yellow eyes slightly squinted, surveying the living space prepared for guests by Zhuangbei. Of course, the ownership had now been transferred to Lu Ling. However, there was no hint of humility in her gaze, instead resembling someone inspecting her own territory. Cinderlin had been waiting in the shadow of the porch and quietly stepped out. Slightly bowing, Elder Gaddis, the captain is dining on the terrace. Her voice was as gentle as ever. Gaddis merely nodded slightly in response and walked past Cinderlin into the castle. On the top terrace, the morning light softly illuminated Khalifa Lake, turning it into a shimmering expanse of gold. Lu Ling sat at a simple alloy dining table, his breakfast modest, contrasting sharply with the sweet pastry being devoured by Qin beside him. Having completed the second stage genetic optimization, his presence had become more solid, with the E-grade not only enhancing his physical fitness, but also providing a keen insight into his surroundings and an inner sense of control. Now, he was stronger, seeing further, and thinking more. He spotted Gaddis, and a faint smile crossed his face as he gestured for her to take a seat. Gaddis sat down across from him, and Cinderlin served a breakfast. Your ship's performance exceeds my expectations. As agreed, I will work with Clun to help you secure the 1-year mining permit for the Mirage Well. The elder indeed kept his word. Lu Ling smiled, picked up a beverage bottle beside her, and poured a glass of clear water for Gertis. I admire trustworthy people. Is that so? Trustworthiness is a wonderful virtue. The mining rights are yours, but have you thought about how to extract it? The environment inside the Gravity Mirage well is complex, and the difficulty of extraction is 10 times greater than outside. Moreover, you only have one ship. No matter how efficient it is, it's impossible to quietly consume the entire vein. Lu Ling touched her nose. 10 times the difficulty? Only one ship? The training-type Vanguard in the marketplace costs 5 million star coins, and civilian laser extractors are 2,000 each. However, she remained composed, and simply followed up with her question. So what insights do the elders have? Cooperation, Gertis replied, her gaze intense, contrasting sharply with her petite figure. This was not merely about fulfilling a bet. It was about a deeper, strategic collaboration. You possess disruptive technology, the white-haired girl slightly raised her chin, and I can provide the entire mining framework of Zhuangbi, along with sales channels, to help you quickly turn a profit. Lu Ling looked at her, silent. Gertis took a deep breath and presented the core of her well-thought-out plan. Let us join forces to establish a new company, completely independent of the existing Zhuangbi family system. Led by you and me. You contribute technology, and I contribute resources, channels, and initial funding. This company will not only serve us. In the future, it could even cater to other mining groups in the star domain seeking breakthroughs, providing high-end extraction solutions and technical services. The profits and potential influence from this will far exceed merely selling raw ore, like your transaction with Parker. A glimmer of admiration flashed in Lu Ling's eyes. Gertis's ambition and vision were indeed remarkable. She not only recognized the value of the technology itself, but also saw the immense potential in platforming and standardizing it. An interesting proposal, Lu Ling nodded slowly. Currently, without anchoring EVE industrial architecture, I cannot produce ships through blueprints. As for the local shipyard in Zhuangbi, Aura has already investigated it. It does not meet EVE starship production standards. Gertis seemed to relish his acknowledgement, a confident smile curling at her lips. Have you thought of a name for the company? Lu Ling asked. Moonlight mining, she stated clearly. Though the moonlight isn't as dazzling as the sun, it illuminates the darkness and guides the way, which aligns perfectly with our future positioning, don't you think? Low-key, yet omnipresent, mysterious, yet indispensable. She looked towards the rising sun over the distant mountains as dawn broke. At that moment, Qin happened to notice Lu Ling's cup was empty and immediately reached out with her greasy hand to refill it. Lu Ling pondered for a moment and then said, Elder Gertis, your proposal is excellent, and the potential for cooperation is indeed substantial. He paused briefly. However, sharing technology may not be that simple. The local scientific research capabilities in Zhuangbi are not yet sufficient to reverse engineer and replicate the technology of our Federation. To put it bluntly, given the current industrial levels in Zhuangbi and what I know about the Kosi star domain, there are significant gaps in foundational theory, material science, and precision manufacturing processes. This is not a problem that can be solved simply by transferring technical blueprints. It involves a complete and self-consistent industrial system and knowledge framework. To reverse engineer it, or even just to understand its basic principles, requires a long accumulation of time and breakthroughs in fundamental science. Lu Ling shrugged and said, It's like trying to give a grand symphony score to a primitive tribe that only knows how to strike stones, and expecting them to perform it perfectly right away. My technology, in a way, is that symphony for the current situation in Zhuangbi. This statement made Gaddis fall into deep thought. The technological gap is a real chasm in front of them, and Lu Ling was right. This is a prerequisite that requires the entire technological tree to ascend. She raised her gaze to Lu Ling and said, It seems you have already thought of a solution. Lu Ling raised an eyebrow and slowly said, Let's collaborate to establish the Moon God. You will be responsible for providing storage, sales, energy security, and infrastructure, while all mining aspects will be handled by me. The profits will be shared according to our agreement. Externally, everything will be claimed as cutting-edge mining equipment independently developed by Moon God Mining. No one will know or be able to explore its core secrets. In this way, we both get what we need. Lu Ling paused and added, But I have one condition. All high-grade minerals, such as common crystal and burning rock, will not be sold externally. Why? Gaddis frowned. Are you planning to build a starship for the Earth Federation? This exclusive high-profit approach touched the bottom line of cooperation fairness. That's right, Lu Ling admitted. Without high-grade minerals, profits are limited. But as compensation, I will assist Moon God Mining in tapping into new profit growth points, such as sweeping the mid and low-grade mineral markets of Koreisai. The profits from this will be enough to offset your losses in high-grade minerals. Of course, cooperation is mutual. This is just my condition. Gaddis listened quietly. Sweeping the mid and low-grade mineral markets of the Koreisai Star region? This proposal shone like a bright light, instantly penetrating her previous doubts caused by the monopolization of high-grade minerals. She knew better than anyone that while high-grade minerals are indeed invaluable within the Koreisai Star region and the entire imperial territory, their total quantity and circulation range are relatively limited, more often serving as strategic reserves and scarce resources for top-tier manufacturing. In contrast, mid- and low-grade minerals are the real backbone that supports the daily consumption of the vast imperial industrial system, with market capacity and cash flow reaching astronomical figures. Lu Ling also understood that not everyone can extract titanium alloy from common crystals. In the Empire, it is called solid titanium alloy. Its properties belong to the main structure and armor components of warships, and according to analysis, its performance is far inferior to that of titanium alloy. Risks and benefits quickly calculated in Gaddis's mind. Accepting the conditions means losing direct control over high-grade minerals, but it allows her to leverage Lu Ling's strength to establish an absolute advantage in a broader and more fundamental market. Accumulating crucial capital and experience